Hello and welcome to GeekVerse Sidequest, your weekly stop for video game news, reviews, and more here on the GeekVerse Podcast Network. I'm your host, Dr. Spooky Dylan Muss, and I have with me the Robo-Man himself, Travis Snell, here to talk about Midnight Suns. How are you doing tonight?
Very, very good. I'm excited. This is I'd say, anticipated episode. Anytime it's a superhero game, I'm always excited to talk about it. But it's Monday, so this is a good way to end a Monday.
Yes, good stuff. I feel like this could be a long one. There's so much to talk about with this game. We've both been going hard over the last few days playing a ton of this thing. Just a few plugs I want to do first, which is, first off is that, it's December now. This is probably the last new game I'm playing this year, which means that Game of the Year is right around the corner here. So I want to kind of announce these dates. Things are tentative to move, as they always are in the Geekverse realm. But here's how... I'll just say the rest of the month is looking like for Sidequest, because it's mostly going to be the Game of the Year stuff and not your regular weekly cast, that we have other stuff to fill it in. So, of course, right now it's going to be December 6th when this releases. In 2 days, December 8th, you're going to get the first episode of Game of the Year. There's going to be 4 episodes in total. The first one is kind of the opening ceremony. You're going to do some kind of icebreaker questions, all that good stuff. Then they're also going to do best visuals and best music. So if you didn't listen to the best of categories that we did last year, me and Dante, essentially we just threw out a bunch of nominations, like some categories, 20, 30 things, and then we narrow it down to a top 5. What were the 5 best looking games of the year, 5 best soundtracks, that kind of thing. So that'll be the first episode on December 8th. And then the day after that, the Game Awards episode should drop. That'll be part of the regular Geekverse kind of weekly episode rather than Sidequest specifically, but it'll be on the Sidequest feed. You can check it out there. And then next week on December 13th, you're going to get the best levels episode. And then on the 15th, you'll get the best characters episode. So that'll be really fun. And then the week after, I'm thinking probably the 20th is when the actual Game of the Year, the top 10 lists will drop, which me and Dante have been doing that for the last 2 years now at this point. So it'll be fun to do that for the 3rd annual year. And then also tucked away in those Game of the Year episodes, Travis, Kirkland, Taylor. You guys played a lot more this year because of Sidequest being around, but you still can't keep up with me and Dante. How you and us, Phelps, have your movie face-off. Me and Dante are up there in the 50s, 60s games that we've played, so we have a lot of stuff to consider. And so tucked away in those 3 best of episodes is going to be you guys doing your Game of the Year. Taylor sent me his. He did a top 3. Travis might do 1, 3, 5, who knows? Kirkland, I don't know what he's going to do either, but if you guys want to hear their thoughts as well, check out those episodes. So that's what Sidequest is looking like for the month. And then I got to say, I mean, Midnight Suns, I feel like I've barely scratched the surface in some ways. There was like when it said the end of part 1, is like, oh, that was many, many hours for part 1. So who knows? Maybe me and Travis will get back on here at some random point and talk more about Midnight Suns when we have beat it, because we have absolutely not done that today, unless you went absolutely crazy in the last 24 hours.
No, I did not. I think we're in a similar spot, but I also will get into it. But I think I'd love to look at if you were to streamline, which there's certain things you can't really do to streamline it. This is a game where they'll kind of make you, no, you kind of got to do this. So. Yeah, we'll talk about it.
Sounds good. Other than that, I mean, check out the main feeds. There's all sorts of fun stuff. Patreon to get episodes early and ad-free. That's actually probably good for the Game of the Year stuff in particular. I'll throw that up as soon as we've recorded it, so you can get that stuff probably at least a few days early. So that'll be fun. Thank you to Taylor for the thumbnails and Amanda for the music. Anything else you want to shout out, Travis, from the week here? You got Travis Told You I saw is recording this week, or actually 2 this week, I think. So
should
probably a lot of that coming up.
Yeah, that could be an error, but there should be 1 this week for sure. Yeah, that, and then yeah, I think it's just the general. You got an Avatar retro coming up. At some point, we're gonna record a Christmas movie retro.
Yes.
We'll be doing the night before, as chosen by our patrons. So I'm very excited about that. But just lots of fun. I'm excited for Game Awards because I'm just I always like to see, even if there's leaks and whatnot, I'm always excited to see how they're done and the pacing of the show, and not so much the winners. I'm excited to see the winners, but always the speeches. The speeches are. Can lead to some fun situations, or you just get to hear from people you've never heard from before, and they kind of get their moment to talk about their team and why this game means so much, and that's what it comes down to. I do like the award. I do like the the scoops and the big reveals, but I'm an awards guy, and I'm always the people that I hate when they get like the minute and whatnot. So I'm excited to talk about that with you and the other gents this week.
Yeah, we did our predictions last week, and one of the resounding themes on that was that like maybe a bit of a predictable year in terms of the winners. So I think in terms of certain awards, particularly Game of the Year, I think is going to almost have like no hype to it because it's almost just like a foregone conclusion. Maybe I'm wrong, but we all predicted what it's going to be, and I feel like that's likely. But a couple good things. One is Clay had posted this in the Discord that apparently they've like reduced the runtime of I guess the game awards in general. It's going to be at least an hour shorter-ish than it usually is. So
really?
I think pacing should be a lot better. Now, if it's the same amount of ads, but that's with a shorter runtime, that could be iffy. So we'll see how that goes. But I think either way, I think it needs to be shorter no matter what. So
I think half an hour short, but a full hour shorter might be.
Maybe
because my worry is you're going to get a lot more awards that are in that like oh, we gave these 5 awards away and now that's going to be like 7. Like they're going to do really quick.
It might be a half an hour. I just know like last year was at least 4 hours, and the thing he posted was like somewhere in the 3-hour mark. So maybe it's up to an hour, maybe it's just a half an hour. And then they kind of took the wind out of the sails of the announcement a bit, but Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order 2, or what is it? I forget the name. It has an actual name.
Jedi Survivor.
Survivor, that's the one, is having, I guess it's first, I think it had a teaser, right? But it's gameplay trailer, so that'll be fun. So not really surprised, but I'm sure that'll be a good one that we can all break down.
Yeah, which, at the end of the day, like, Lucasfilm let out, but at the same time, like, they're getting the gameplay trailer, right? And I've said this before, we talked about it, I don't think it was my official prediction. I think Taylor went that way. Or did someone have Jedi Survivor in there?
If it wasn't you, it must have been Taylor then.
Okay,
and definitely talked about... Well, you did Ubisoft, right?
Which I'm feeling I'm wrong now. I'm feeling I'm wrong on both mine because a report came out today too about Wolverine, about it being like 2025 or earlier. I'm like, those damn Sony leaks. Like, what were they talking about?
I mean,
that's true. I think you're gonna. I think you'll get a good trailer there. So I think it's gonna be a fun show. So
it will be. Yep. Let's get right into it. So first off, just the technicals of it. I'm playing on Xbox. I'm guessing you're on PlayStation?
I am, yeah. I did that just in case while I was gaming. If Emily wanted to play Call of Duty, it was free to herself and stuff like that. So that's why I usually, the solo games I know might take up some time, they're on the PlayStation, so she can use the Xbox. So
Yeah, and so obviously, PS5, I'm on Series X because this is a current gen only game. They delayed the old gen versions of it, though that's still apparently coming next year, so we'll see what happens there. I think the hour count, I don't actually know. I want to say we're probably both in the 20 to 30 range. How much have you played since we talked last? Because we talked recently that we both just finished part 1, and I've done, I think, 2 more main quests after that reveal.
The last quest I did was at a carnival. That's what I'll say. So I feel like I'm pretty I'm 1 behind you, I think.
Well, that's after part 1, right?
Yeah, it's after part 1. Okay. Yeah, and you unlock a certain.
I think you're correct. I think I'm one. I think I'm 1 quest ahead of you there.
Yeah,
and then the base progression, I feel like is not necessarily tied to where you are in the story, but I'll say that I have 3 powers. So the people who played the game will know what that means. You have your second one now, right? Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, we'll talk about it. But I got my second one. But again, I don't know if that's tied to where you are in the story, because technically I think you could have your 1 power and not...
I think you can ignore a lot of that stuff.
Yes.
It certainly helps. You'll get a lot of good stuff if you're doing more of that exploration. But Travis, throwing to you first, I am so curious I know you're enjoying the game, but I want to know exactly why that is. We'll save the recommendation part of the opening thoughts for a bit because I have some kind of specific questions there. But what do you think about this game so far? You've played a lot of it already, so where are you at?
Yeah, you mini spoiled it, but I was gonna say since Spider-Man 4, I feel like we've had not a slew, but a good portion. A couple years ago, we talked about they gotta make more superhero games. They've been doing that, right? And I feel like there's been games that have had good things about them, but not a great game. But I can easily say this is the best one since Spider-Man 4. But this is, I think if we were to make a superhero game list, this is easily to me in the top 5, maybe top 3.
Wow.
This is a fantastic game, and it's such a journey I've went on with this game because it got announced. I heard the pitch. I've never played much of this type of game. But really, once I got into it, I feel like, I have just in variation of degrees. But it was announced, they're doing that. I'm excited to jump in Midnight Suns. That's a great concept. And I, along with everybody else, when the cards got introduced, that was the biggest halt. That I felt like the momentum just stopped. But that has been one of the funnest aspects. This game is it is very, very addictive. It's something that you'll do. Oh, I just want to do one more run because I feel like we'll get into it. But there's a certain type of you wake up. That's what I'll just say. You wake up and you kind of have some activities, and you'll do a day's worth of things. And okay, I'll go to sleep and that's it. But maybe you unlocked a different power, or there's a character, or there's a mission. Like, oh, let me just do one more. And it's always tough to plan because you don't know how the battles are gonna go. Some battles are easy, done, and some you're there for an hour. Like, okay, if I move this piece, and it's not to the same degree, but it reminds me a lot of when we talked about Elden Ring, that it's like video game chess, where it's just like, yeah, okay, so the cards say, they slowed them down, but really doesn't feel so because your mind's racing a mile a minute because you're looking at all these different options. You feel like get Zach Galifianakis in Hangover when he's doing all the calculations and everything. And no, it is very, very enjoyable. Even stuff like having a main character that is new has become enjoyable with Hunter, because I've always said in superhero games or any games, that gimmick of, oh, you have to be your own character, it's always like, it's lame. And I think they've done a good job with that and even tying with the story. And plus, what I love is there's tons of times where you don't have to play as that character. You're not always linked with them. This is a phenomenal game. This is very much like now my back half where Elden Ring, I missed out on a lot of games because I just played that for the first half. This is one where, I see like Jedi Survivor coming out in March, and it's like, am I going to be done with this game? Like, it's just, there's so much I want to do with it. And I feel like it's also a good game that, like I said, you can get into a route of, okay, you might be there for an hour, but I think there is little things you can just do that you could just kill half an hour and stuff like that. Like, and my last point is with the cards, I don't know why it didn't even come up, but when I found out you could do cards with not only your own character changing the deck, but every single character, oh man, my eyes just opened up, and it's just it's great. It feels like it gets better as it goes along. If I had only one critique against it, I would say the choice system, I admire what they're going for, but I think it's kind of on the weaker side as far as there's a system. People have compared it to Knights of the Old Republic. It is, but I feel like they've there's some situations where they did your choice matters.
Do you mean specifically with the way it relates to the card system, or just in general?
Just in general, yeah, more the RPG. The card system, you're right. I think that plays into it well, as unlocking certain things, your character's power, stuff like that. But I love the RPG elements of building things, your relationships, stuff like that. But the whole light and dark, which we'll get more specifics, I think that they either could have done more with or dropped it, or we'll wait until we get further. I have an idea of what could have been a bit better with it. They even set some things up. They don't really do much with it. So that's my only critique, is it feels like sometimes your choices don't matter that much as far as like a story goes, really. And they kind of played that up a little bit. So that's my only one. But no, this is a phenomenal game. I'm very excited to talk in depth about this.
I love it. Yeah, as for myself, I'm in a very similar boat. I'm absolutely loving this thing from like every single angle. And I think for me, it really is what you were saying there, like the addictive part of it, which is that when you're in a battle, obviously you're having fun and all that, but you're just like, you can't wait to get back to the Abbey and interact with those characters, do that character progression stuff. Maybe you have some exploration thing to do. And then when you're back at the Abbey, you just can't wait to get back into the next battle and like start, get into that strategy gameplay again. And so many games have that exact same loop, even in this genre. Like, this game is so close in structure to Fire Emblem Three Houses.
Oh, is it?
But yeah, but like so much of it's just so much more successful in a lot of ways. For me, it's particularly just because like I like the combat a lot more, and there's a lot more depth with like the character stuff. And I even think too, a game I played earlier this year that me and Kirkland reviewed, Cult of the Lamb, was like, oh, I love the base building aspect of the game, but then the combat, it's kind of a bit of a slog. And then there's points in that game where you just have to do a bunch of combat. There's nothing really to do at the base. So maybe that'll happen here. Maybe I'll get to a point where the base just ends up being a slog, or the combat does. But I don't forecast that happening with the current momentum I'm going with here. I just love both elements of the game. I've played so many tactics strategy games. This is unlike any I have played. There's so many interesting things here, and it goes way beyond just the card system. Maybe it's because they have cards and the things they had to do to make the balance work with having cards. I'm excited to get into that. But even just the way you have only kind of one movement per turn as a default is a very interesting choice, and that just differentiates it from the genre so much. And I think that kind of thing makes the pace move up, but we'll talk about that shortly. And then I think on the opposite side of things, like that base building element, I love all of it. the character interactions. I don't know if I've ever played a Marvel game that has this good of dialogue and like choices and conversations. Usually it's much more surface level, or I guess it's so focused, like a Spider-Man. I really like the story and the characters there.
Yeah, but they're guiding you
yeah. But to have like that RPG side of it where you're making like dialogue choices, and that has ramifications and building up these relationships, and then just the characters interacting and doing their own things outside of that too is great. And yeah, I think you mentioned this, but I want to double up on it too, which is that I think where the secret sauce almost of this game is the hunter as a character. I think that is such a success. I do like the light. I like the light dark kind of balance, and we'll talk about that and why you're not digging it so much. But I think that at least with it, there's such a variety in the way you build your character out, and that one, like Captain America, you can build him in different ways, but ultimately feels like he's kind of supposed to be this sort of supportive, taking fire for the team, that sort of play style. Or the hunter, you can go so many different ways with it, and I have 10 auxiliary cards that I don't have in my deck right now. It's like, oh, I could totally change this around and have like a totally different type of character in here. And then on top of that, it's like I really enjoy the character. The backstory of it is one, like kind of a bit of a chosen one storyline, but then there's enough of a blank slateness the way they frame it that you can kind of embody the character and fill it with your own personality. Yeah, did I mention the voice acting? I think the voice acting is great, just in general, but particularly for the hunter as well.
Yeah.
I think for me to get a couple of negatives out of the way, I think when you first were playing the game before me, you messaged me and said, "Oh, there's some Marvel Ultimate Alliance 1 graphics here," and I mean that's maybe a bit hyperbole, but like
that first cutscene, you don't agree with it. That first for you, the first cutscene did have a thing where it was squared for a little bit, and like the edges were
with Ghost Rider. Is it that scene, or is there a separate one?
With the Ghost Rider, and like it's.
I did notice those bars. It was a bit strange. Yeah,
there was like I'll stand by that. It feels maybe I'll give it at least Marvel Ultimate Alliance 2, but it felt
that I can't disagree with that.
Yeah, it felt like 360 air for a second, not the whole way, but I was like, oh, maybe it's just loading wrong or something. It was something about the first, I'd say like 30 to 40 minutes that some of those cutscenes was like, did they rush to finish these ones? It shouldn't be because they're the first one, but it's not and that's, don't get me wrong, it's not it because the game's so enjoyable. I can look past that. It's almost just much like the Marvel Cinematic Universe, right? There's so much like sometimes bad CGI that we can look past it because if the story or character are great, but it's definitely not like the PlayStation 5, Xbox Series X pinnacle of what you can do with a console.
It made me laugh when I was getting in there. I'm like, interesting that they delayed the old version, the old console versions of this, because it certainly looks like a PS4 game in many ways. Now, to frame that, I think actually in the battles themselves, I think the game looks great, and the animations are really good. But I almost wonder if there was so much focus put into that the quality, if you're zoomed out, it's not as important if it looks as great when you zoom in. But then there's so much of like dialogue where you're face to face with someone when it really shows. And I think to me that is maybe the biggest disappointment is just the graphical quality, particularly with the characters and like the mocap of their face and talking. It does not look good, and it takes you out of it a bit at times. Now, thankfully, I feel like most of the time I'm reading the text and like skipping,
me too, yeah.
So I'm not like directly looking at their face. But when I do, it's like, Carol, you are a robot. Like, this is not a real human that I'm talking to.
Even Peter
right
Parker, he sometimes looks like...
Yeah, he has a weird look.
He looks like he's one of those AI robots, like you said, that has skin on his face. And it's just like he has no cheek. It's just like he's just a face, and stuff like that.
Yeah, Wolverine's hairy body is like, there's no... hair is not coming off his body. It's just like scribbles on his arms and stuff. So, I mean, it's definitely noticeable. And yeah, it's worth showing. And I guess in terms, like, I've had a few bugs, nothing too big of a deal. I had some like audio bugs where things weren't like certain sound effects weren't going off, and I thought it was very strange. And then after a bit, I was like, say, okay, something's actually wrong here. Close the game, opened it back up, and then it like fixed itself. And I don't know if you noticed this too, but sometimes you'll like a certain character on in the actual battles will get like stuck in an animation or something. And I'm worried every time it has. I'm like, oh god, is the game about to like get soft locked here with just this glitched animation? But then like after 5 seconds, it'll like kick it out of it. It's weird. So I've had some little bugs here or there, but not not much, just kind of worth shouting out, I suppose.
Yeah, those haven't happened to me. I've had my game crash twice. Just
Interesting.
yeah, I went to go do a daily.
How's the auto saving then? Because I feel like I've not really had to save at all. But did you lose any progress?
What I could not big stuff because I feel like usually once you go like you'll do your daily stuff and go select a mission. Once you're on the mission, it saves that. My problem was I go do like a daily combat sparring and that's when it paused. So it sucks when I went to go get some new cards and then I made my whole deck and then it's like it's not nothing huge I have to redo. It's just kind of tedious. Like I gotta go talk to Tony again. I gotta do this again. Like you're literally just redoing the same stuff. Yeah, it just happened twice, and then the other one was just one time. I think I was in the battle, like loading up to, and it was a black screen with like the cursor just there. I could move the cursor, but nothing else. So it's crashed twice. So the first time the autosave, and if you look at your files, they autosave quite a bit, so it's pretty good.
There's a lot in there for sure.
Yeah, so now every once in a while, though, when I do a big deck reshuffle, like all the characters, I do save right after because I don't want to do that again. So, and honestly, it's only happened twice in 3 days and like multiple hours. Like I don't know how many hours I've racked up like of playing. So it's good that way. So luckily not too many, but I haven't had any stuck animations yet. So
yeah. So I want to just do a little recommendation here because I think this game it feels like it's for a specific audience, but then it's other times it feels like it's broad enough that it's kind of applicable to a lot of people. But I want to look at it from two different lenses. One is the kind of tactics side of things. I think this is so much so different from the other games I've played, mostly because like they took the grid out of there and it's like every turn structure is not a character gets a move and an attack. Like it's much more fluid than that. And you like one turn could be just only Iron Man doing stuff and your other characters are just kind of sitting there. And yeah, I think it's not really about I get positioning is important, but it's way less important than other games in the genre where you only have one move per turn by default, and your characters move when they do certain attacks. But it's not like a Fire Emblem where you're like setting up a wall of characters to like defend someone else. Like that's just not really part of it. So I guess for you as someone who's kind of new to this genre, like do you think that gameplay element of it is? I mean, I guess it's hard for you to compare it for fans of the genre, but as a newcomer, like obviously you do like the game, but in terms of the recommendation of it, where do you sit?
Yeah, I think for me it is challenging, but it's also easy access to get into. Like I feel like the most of the game, like, I'm not gonna say it handholds you, but I think it's very clear with instructions. It sometimes will maybe over instruct you of how you could do what you could do, stuff like that.
Yeah.
Prompt. So I think that's a good thing, like how to get in there and I think it's if someone's like me, it's not really their genre or franchise or whatnot. This to me, and if you're a fan of Marvel, this is the perfect one because I feel like you talked about before, dialogue, characters, the world. As a Marvel fan, I just loving everything about this. We talk about this all the time. The MCU is like, I can't wait till we get to the more Midnight Suns era because before superhero, like horror was my genre. So I think if you're a Marvel fan, the cards, they might seem intimidating and cards, but really all it is I would compare the game, not exactly, but it is similar to a Marvel Alliance where, okay, you got a bunch of heroes, you're jumping mission to mission. There's definitely more of a story here than there is in a Marvel Ultimate Alliance. But the difference from, okay, you'll get plopped down in a room and do a bunch of button mashing. This is you literally playing chess with Marvel characters in a way, But the fun thing is this chess is like, they do super cool moves. You can do combo moves, there's villains and stuff like that. Like, I think it is like, and I don't want to say it's because I don't have a good comparison as far as like a mainstream, but, and also for people that I recommend it to is I said this to you, but I think it's 100% like this because Emily saw the game. She's like, oh, I should have known you're going to fucking love this game because you like any game with cards. And I legitimately think it's very similar to Gwent. Like, it's not because Gwent was just like a board and cards, but the play style, the stacking, the combining, it feels identical to, it just feels like if you like Gwent and like OG Gwent, not like what they ended up like kind of a bastardized version, end up closing the game down, like original Gwent, it feels like that with Marvel Heroes. So if anyone has that type of Witcher love, then I would say if you love The Witcher, definitely get this because it's just there. Instead of it being a board, you're literally seeing them move around, and I feel like you always feel like you're building to something too. That's a good thing. It doesn't feel, because I think that's thing with certain games like a Gwen, and I'm not sure what Tactics is, but eventually you might feel like you've capped out. You've just kind of go, okay, I've done everything I can. I got all my cards, I'm just playing new people. But with this, all the characters give you different reasons to want to do these things, and there's varieties of difficulty and stuff like that. So I was just gonna mention too, like the Marvel aspect of it. It's almost like
too deep in the fan service. I'm loving it for that, but there's like just name drops of
Oh,
like
100%.
Thanos and Doctor Doom are out there. You'll do like a hero op that's like, oh, go save Shang-Chi, and like it's endless. You get these the tarot cards, like each character, like Silver Surfer, and like I don't know, they're name dropping every Marvel character that exists. So if you are a fan of that stuff, I think it's just fun to go through that element of it too. So yeah, with that, maybe we'll throw to our first break, and then we'll kind of get into it a bit more here. Now, the thing is, I want to say, I feel like, I don't know if you agree with this, but when I've been thinking about this game the last couple of days, I feel like it's pretty hard to talk about this in a truly non-spoilers way, because I feel like everything is so connected between the characters, the systems of it, and like, yeah, we could not intentionally not talk about some of the main story stuff, but I also feel like what's going on in the main story like moves very slowly. They are not in a rush to get to certain plot points. So I feel like, to me, the things that would be spoilers are like finding a cool card and this kind of dynamic between these two characters that you wouldn't expect or something like that. So it's like that stuff is best experienced on your own. So I think if you have like passing interest in this, if what we've said here sounds like something you want to pick up, I think you should do that before, listening into our further thoughts here, because yeah, I think there's a lot of fun little surprises in here, and it's not just like main plot story stuff. It's kind of hidden in the little details. I think that's what is making this game so special for me so far.
Yeah, and then if anyone does choose to turn out, like my best recommendation is like I honestly, this is the type of game, much like Elden Ring, where I feel like, because I was newbie with that, I'd recommend this to pretty much anybody. Even if you look at it and go, I'm not a tactics guy, I'm not a card girl, I don't know, like I like Marvel enough, but like if you looked at this and were interested at any point, I think it's worth it, and it delivers. Even if it's down the road, maybe you don't want to get it for the full price, but even down the road, to me, this is a must. And I feel like this is going to be a game that, man, I hope this sells well. And man, I don't know what it is. I don't know. I would love if they just did an X-Men version of this. You
got 2 more X-Men coming in the DLC at least, so maybe they'll do like an X-Mansion section or something.
Yeah, like whatever it is though, like I want more of this. To me, this is a game that could maybe sell all right, and then just for 10 years though, it's going to be a hidden gem. I'll be like, oh, have you played Midnight Suns? It is just, so I recommend it honestly to anybody. I really do. Even if it's down the line, get this game, because I don't think you'll be disappointed. You might need some time for it, but still, you can take your own pace, and I think you're going to have a good time.
Love it. Okay, let's take our first break. Travis, we are back. I want to start by talking about the cards in particular. Now, as I mentioned, I feel like everything is so connected that let's embrace the tangents. If we start talking about cards, and then like we start talking about Blade, then we can just talk about Blade. We'll just kind of go with it for today. But I want to start by bringing up Fanboy Clay's question from the Discord, who asks, I should say, in regards to the card aspect, does it slow the pace down? In comparison to something as generic as Marvel Snap, is it something that you have to really think about strategically, or is it fast paced? Now, compared to Marvel Snap, which is its selling point is it's the world's fastest card game.
Oh, really?
It's definitely not that. Yeah, like I don't think a game could possibly be longer than 6 minutes if everyone like went max turns, but most games are like 3 minutes long or something like that. It's supposed to be snappy. It's part of the name of it, right? So it's definitely not that. But I don't think it has a slow pace to it. Now, sometimes you might just be, moving your camera around, surfing at the board, and just looking at everything first. Or, you just might do that for several minutes at a time or something like that. And certain missions are quite long. Main quest missions kind of have like a 2-act structure almost to them, where you have like 2 fights to them. So yeah, like I think it is a slower paced strategic game. I think if you bump down like the easiest difficulty, you could probably just blast through it and have some fun animations and combos and not really think about it too much. But I don't know if the story is so revolutionary that you'd want to do it for that purpose. Like, you want to be here for the tactics. I think you should probably not want to play on the lowest difficulty. They do a good job of starting you on normal by default, and then after you've played for a few hours, it's like, hey, do you want to bump up the difficulty? You've just unlocked this. And I'm still on Heroic 2. Are you on Heroic 2 as well?
Yeah, when did you, because you said you unlocked 3. How did you unlock 3? I'm like a mission behind you, and I still haven't unlocked it.
Yeah, that's strange. I wonder if it's because I got it like before I had that 3rd power unlocked. So it wouldn't be in comparison to the power. So I really don't know what it is that unlocks the difficulties. I guess I
I'm
don't know.
excited to try it.
I wonder if it says it somewhere in like a menu. If you go and look, like in the glossary, if you went over to the difficulty slider, it might tell you at that point.
Because when I get Heroic 3, I'm going to it. I'm all about getting as many
rewards
and XP. Yeah, I'm always, every time I've got the bump up, I go to it, even if there's like a learning curve. But I think it can slow it down, but I think in the best way possible of it slows it down where, let's say there's 6 enemies on the board, it's just you, Lone Doctor Strange, and it's like, okay, it's like, you can win it, but if you make one wrong play, one wrong card move, that maybe you'll screw up and then get the upper hand. So that's where it's like, it does slow it down. There's been times where I've been sitting there for 10 minutes, like, well, what if I did this? Like, should I do a revive or should I do this? Like, but it's like it slows it down, but it doesn't feel slow because, like I said in the the opening, your mind's racing with possibilities of what could happen. So I think it'd be something where, and you said this, and I'll give you credit that you're 100% right, that when we saw, I think it was when we saw that first Sabretooth fight, they showed it at, I can't remember when, at Gamescom, and you said like, oh, this isn't probably the game that like previews the best for people. And I 100% agree with that, because I thought about this of like, even if I was to stream this, I don't think people would have as much fun, because like you could be in the chat and talking and everything like that, but really, if you're just looking at my screens, just like, he's just been here for 10 minutes. But in my mind, I'm having a great time because I'm looking, again, okay, do I hit from this angle? Because like, if you move a certain way, maybe I can get a free move if I just bump a guy into this, but is it worth to take down the main boss's HP here? And some missions are weird, because some missions you got to kill the main boss and all the enemies. Some missions you just got to kill the main boss and you never know.
Sometimes it's unclear, Sometimes they're like, oh, once you do this thing, it'll be over. And other times you're kind of left a bit uncertain. So it's like, do I go for the all-out Hail Mary to take out the boss here and then just leave myself open to the cannon fodder that's going to.
And I don't necessarily mind that, because it just feels like a battle like in Marvel's game where you take out a guy and maybe all their minions fall apart too. So I like the randomness. So it slows it down, but I think it's needed to slow down. I don't think you ever feel like the game is slow. It's just like you got to go fast. It's the same way if you were fighting in any game a boss battle, you're not going to go over them like some just scrub and just like hit them. Okay, how can I plan this out? Whether it's Elden Ring, whether it's even we're talking like a Jedi Survivor, like whatever it may be, Knights of the Republic, like if you're in a boss battle, and that's like you said, some are very easy. Some you can just stroll by and you get a nice easy 3-star and you're like, man, didn't even break a sweat, no revives, no nothing. And then there's times where you got 2 cards left, 8 enemies, no revives. You're like, oh boy, okay, how can I, what's the possible string of moves I can do here? Should I redraw? Should I not redraw? Because there's been times where I get a redraw, perfect card, wins me the game. Other times, like, oh man, I did not need Iron Man's mark whatever thing.
Yeah, that move, I've gotten that.
I sold that move because I don't.
I still have one in my deck, but it's ready to go when it needs to. I guess it might be worth doing a very quick explainer of how the combat works here. So essentially, each turn, you draw a couple cards. I think you start with like 5 something in your hand. You draw probably 2 every turn, something like that. And you have 3 card plays a turn. You get 1 movement. You get 2 redraws, and then you have up to 2 items. Or actually, I think you can unlock more that you can.
You can do 3, I think, eventually.
Yeah, I haven't got that part yet. I still only have 2. So that sounds pretty simple, right? On the surface, but there's so many ways to, quick attacks will get you a card back. So you can essentially, sometimes you can have a turn where you play
kill
like 7 or 8 cards or something like that if you combo these things right. Have you? Okay, we're going on a tangent here. Have you done that threat room thing yet? That is crazy because like every time you kill an enemy there, you get a card back. So I just had I went in there with magic, and maybe it's supposed to be this way, but yeah, like I quite literally played like 15 cards in one turn, killed like 20 enemies before they could do anything, and it was so exhilarating. And that was like a very specific kind of set challenge mission, but it feels so good when you have a turn that's really efficient like that, or like, okay, I'm gonna get some knockback into this enemy so that they have like only 10 health left, so that my quick attack can be used on them to get another card back. Like that push and pull of it is so good. I think the general structure of having 3 types of cards, your cards that build heroic, your kind of supportive cards, I'll say, and then cards that are way stronger that cost heroic. It's like that push and pull of that heroic dial constantly going up. Depending on what your team comp is, it might, sometimes I'll just have like 7 or 8 always because my heroes aren't using enough of it. But then other times it's like that is the rarest commodity in the game is planning out that heroic. Yeah. But I think that's fun. That's a really fun part of the strategy of it is it's not just, okay, what attacks am I using? Where am I hitting the opponents? It's like, okay, like each tack, what is it doing for me to build like to the next thing? And it's very much structured to be a combo heavy game, which I think goes really well into that kind of superhero power fantasy of feeling like you're doing tons of damage and doing cool stuff.
And you do feel like, again, in that comic book trope, a team in a sense, right? Because it's never until you're dead and like you're just one person's left. You are looking at the 3. Man, I wish this game I could have 4. Like we talk about, like if I could have 4 people, that'd be the dream. But 3, because there's
Do I have something to tell you? Magic has a card that you can only do if you upgrade. It's only for 2 turns, but maybe there's a way to upgrade that, or you can bring a 4th hero into the fight for a bit. So you should use some magic and get that ability. I was like,
I really like magic, cool. So I'm gonna put her on every team now. And I actually was gonna bring her on the last one because she's a little lower level. That it just was a string of picking new people and then the missions and stuff like that. But I really well. I'm gonna be getting that card because that's awesome. Because
it might only be 2 turns, but like as we just talked about, 2 turns can be a long time.
That's a game changer
sometimes.
Yeah.
And then you could get that card flowing through your deck multiple times, right? So you could play it again and again. So and if you get multiple of that card, you can put 2 of that card in your deck. That's actually that's a strategy I want to try. It's gonna take some getting there, but that's the kind of thing. You get so many ideas when you see one card and it's like, I wonder what I like. Sometimes you get a card and you're like, this sucks, but then like later it'll be contextualized of why it's a potentially really good card. That part of it is so exciting.
Or there's certain cards where they're already outstanding, and then you just add on to more. Like that's why Doctor Strange is my main guy, because when you can get
talk to me about Doctor Strange. I want to know why he's your favorite.
When you can literally get a card where bring back 2 attack cards from your last deck you previously played, you can eventually get them back to plus 51 as like plus 51 for both cards, and then on top of that, next turn you get to draw 4 cards. It's like 3, like you get 2 cards plus 51 and then 4 turns, and you know how many times I'm just stacking those. Like I've had sometimes like 3-4 turns in a row, and that's all. Like honestly, I can't, and I'm not trying to be cocky, I can't remember the last time I had Strange on a mission where we lost. Like, and that's why sometimes I actually have to leave him off because I feel, and that's why I want to get to Heroic 3, because it's like if I bring him in, I know I got it. People may die, but I like that 4-card turn thing is deadly because there's so much. Because really, if you play your cards right, you got the 4-card one, and you got to move, so that can kind of count as like a 5th. And usually, I got most characters. I always have. I think the majority of characters I all have 1 quick attack, so I love doing that. So like if I have Wolverine, he does a quick attack, and I do the Doctor Strange draw 2 back, do another quick, like with Strange and that power, I can just stack and stack, and then on top of that, he has that other one where it's just you can just like it's powered up the cards and stuff like that. Like bring another 2 back, and like what is the difference? No, there's the Book of the Shantae.
Well, there's one that just like gives all the cards in your hand, that's like plus something damage.
Yeah, and then that one is like it starts as for your turn, and now I've gone all the way for the mission. So it's just like literally first card you can play is boom, now every single card in your deck is up by 25, and that can go. It's just I think there's a part that if this was like an online game, they would probably nerf him, because there is times where you can just pop off with him, and I love Strange. I love the animation. I love his different outfits and stuff. So no, he's my main. He is what, because I think you and I were the same. He is what I wanted him to be in Marvel Ultimate Alliance, where I like. Of course, it's not as in depth as this, but he feels like he is a support player, but he can also mess you up. He's not just fully, and that's where I think some games really have a problem, where they make them too supportive and they're not really fun. Like you just have him there as like here's a revive, and same thing with Hunter. I thought he was gonna be that. I'm like, I'm just gonna have him here as like the revive guy, right? But eventually I grew with him and like got new power stuff. So I appreciate Strange that, but Strange to me is just the amount of stuff he can do, and even his attacks, like you can get his knot back into it quick. There's so much stuff, and it's like the Axe of Ox or something. That thing can get up to like close to 300 if you stack your cards right. It's deadly, man. And Strange is my guy. I love it. He's number 1.
You brought up a great point there in saying that you feel like he's overpowered and they would nerf him if it was a multiplayer game, because I feel like almost every character feels like that at times, just with the way their cards synergize. But for me, it was Captain Marvel was the one that felt like, okay, this is not fair. Like but in a way that's true to the character. She should
Yeah.
be stronger than everyone, and it feels like that. But it's funny you mentioned that, whereas you probably feel like Doctor Strange is by far the strongest guy in the game. But I feel like they do such a good job. If you spend the time with them, you get the combos right, you get the good cards, you put them with the right team. Anyone feels so powerful, and Captain Marvel is just like being able to go binary
And then draw 4 cards.
Yeah, and that being like a free action, multiple quick attacks, the power shot, whatever that's called, where it taunts everyone in the line.
Yeah.
And I got one too that has like one of the star abilities on it, so it has bonus ability that it has a 50% chance that everyone it hits just gets bleed on them too. So now she's hitting like 6 people, and each of them has a 50% chance to have bleed. That does like another 50 damage per turn. It's like, damn, that is so OP. And then she gets so much shield from her stuff too that she's just not taking damage. When you use like that taunt ability and it gives you counter, so then you have 6 people who all come to take their turn to attack you, and one by one you counter them, and
it's
just
so
kill them
satisfying.
back.
Yeah.
Oh, it's so good. And this is legitimately like every character so far feels this way. I'm not exaggerating. Every single, even when I didn't play Ghost Rider for a few missions, I'm like not a big Robbie Reyes fan, but like, God, after I played him for a couple missions, I'm like, this guy's broken too. Everyone's so good.
See, I gotta play with Ryder more because I felt he was the only one where I was like, man, like he's all right. The only thing though is he has the coolest move in the game where he literally busts out his car and like the proton blast, you can just like, or photon blast, you can just get in your car and drive in a line and kill a bunch of people.
See,
At one
that's
point,
the one
I hit
you gotta
5.
you gotta use him and Strange together, because when you buff that move's damage,
That's fair.
It's like, okay, I can like instantly kill a boss with this.
Well, in that car, and that's where I will give him because it's a lot of, it's similar to Magic where he has a lot of portals and a lot of this and that. There's a lot of things like I just aren't the biggest fan of, but I do got to put more time into him because I want to. But even on the base level, that card, the card, I can't remember, it's like Hell Rider or something. Just all alone, it usually starts at like 151. Like it's already strong by itself. And I know, and
you have to discard your
heroic.
hand when you use it, right?
Yeah, and that's the tough thing. But you just got to try to plan it, like leave it as one of your last cards, and then you're good to go. And
well, I think the balance is cool because certain characters, like how I mentioned that you're building heroic with your basic attacks and then using your heroic cards to deplete your heroic and get stronger moves. Like certain characters interact with that system differently, and even specifically the way I've built Hunter right now, I think I have like, I barely use any heroic essentially on that character, so I'm just building it the whole time. And someone like Ghost Rider, he just eats up that heroic bar. So you need to pair him with characters that don't use a ton of it. So actually, I think Doctor Strange, that combo might be good, but then Doctor Strange also wants a ton of heroic because then his moves get buffed based on that too, right?
Yeah,
so
but they are. But the good thing is, like both of those, like the Book of whatever and the Eye of Agamotto, like whatever those are, the ones that bring back cards and then give you 4 turns. They don't use heroics, and they give you heroic points.
Right,
so that's how.
right.
Oh God! You go.
quick cough attack from
Another shot.
Travis here. Yeah.
Okay, I'm back. No, what I was gonna say is, if you use always, what I would do is if you use that on a 4 turn, and the next turn, like you can literally just make sure the next turn's 4 turn, and that like you can use these 2 power-up cards that are going to make your turn and the next turn very strong, and you're already at like 4 heroic points and stuff like that. And because usually what I do with Strange is I love his quick knockback because I've made that so I can, like I said, just keep knocking people. So he can eat up heroic, but if you get I like to wait till I got those cards together, because then when I play them back to back, that's when I go, okay, I can start popping off. And plus, I like having Iron Man, because if you had the the new game plan or whatever, have you got that power yet?
I think I have that card. What does it do again, though?
It doubles your heroism. So it's like so a lot of times with Strange, and that's where I liked Iron Man, but when I got that card, I'm like, okay, you know what, this is a really good one to have. I like using him and Wolverine together, because Wolverine, I find actually his best stuff eats up tons of heroic stuff, because it's just a lot of 2s and 2s. But that's why if I got Strange, just get me up to 4 or 5. Iron Man comes in, boom, whole new ball game, And the good thing with Strange is maybe I can bring that card back later on and just do it again, So
I love it. I want to zoom out a bit here and just I think for me where the combat. Okay, so 2 things. One thing I want to highlight here is that the closest tactics game I've played to this would be Into the Breach, because specifically that game has a small board as well. It's a chessboard size, and because of that, you're most characters can move like kind of half the board in that game at any given time. In this, like everyone can just move across the whole thing, but it's nice because it frames the whole battlefield as just within your view, where you can see the whole thing at once. And I think that once again, back to Clay's question in a way, that actually makes you process things a lot quicker. Whereas in like Fire Emblem, you're like scrolling up around the map. Okay, what are these guys up out of here? And it's like, okay, if I have to click on a guy to see what item he has, all this stuff. There's like none of that, and I think that's maybe one of the strongest parts about this is there is a lot going on here in terms of debuffs, buffs, special actions for certain missions where you have to like, hit this bell tower, hack this terminal, whatever. Like there's so much stuff like that. But I think they've done such an amazing job with the UI of this where everything is very easy at glance to just tell exactly what's going on. You can see what buffs they have, and you'll start to recognize what the symbols are too, so you don't have to hover over someone. But then if you forget what something is, you hover over and like it says right there what it is, and you can hit the button to get more information. For each of your cards, you can do that too as just a reminder how exactly this mechanic work. But I think eventually for most of them, you will kind of get familiar with them too. But yeah, interestingly too, compared to any other tactics game I've played, is like this game is asymmetrical in its design where you have 3 characters and you have your cards and you're doing that thing, but the opposing team does not use that system at all. They can have way more units than that, and each turn every single one of them gets an action most of the time. Sometimes they don't have an action, but most of the time they get an action. And then I love that too, they just slap the icon on there so you know exactly who they're attacking, depending on what kind of unit they are. Each unit is kind of simple, right? They usually only have, other than bosses, they just have usually one thing they can do. So if you see that icon on them, you know exactly what they're going to do. So yeah, I think to me that's like where the strength is like just that the readability of the game is great. And I think most tactics games are doing that now where it tells you what the opponent is going to do in their turn. But I think this does it almost the best of just that icon on there is everything. It tells you all the information you need to know that make all those decisions very quickly, because there could be some confusion of like maybe you'll get knocked back into explosive. You didn't think about that, but you know what the opponent is going to do every turn, unless it's like a new unit I haven't seen before and you got to learn it. But I think that part of it is just amazing.
Yeah, and there's the odd one that will have like a question mark. So it's like, okay, I really don't know what they're going to do. But then it's like, well, then you take that person out right away if you want to. And I love the icon thing because even the very first game you play, there's a whole text bubble about that. And I think they make it very clear. And I think that's good because it puts you in that situation of, okay, I either have to kill these people so I can protect this one, or maybe I got to put a bunch of blockers on them, or maybe it is just best if I let them die, because sometimes, let's say if Spider-Man is like 10% HP and he has like 4 attackers on him, it's best just to let him die, because those attackers, they don't switch and go to other people. It's like, okay, well, they're after Spider-Man's dead, so they're done for the turn. So it does like, it's like 3 to 4 multiple layers on top of just one little thing. Like just the icons create like, and that's where it's like with every game and every enemy, it creates one little thing. When you have like those disappearing snipers, which I hate, I absolutely hate these snipers that you can only hit them in certain times because they go camouflage. What are some other good enemy types that make you change up and stuff? Like, oh, the healers. Oh, screw the healers too. Those guys, but that's what I mean. It's
the
like
summoners, man. Those guys are savage. You got to be on top of them.
Yeah, and that's where it's tough. Where especially that's where I feel sometimes the most rounds I had the hardest problems with, or I had actually lost, were the random missions where it's like, oh, you got to do these 3 cases at once, but you also got to defeat these enemies. It's just like there is. The enemy types, the objectives, and who they're targeting all create their own separate like tree of options, and then they somehow all grow together in this big battle that you have to juggle. And that sounds like, oh, that might be a lot. It is, but that's the fun of it, because it also just feels like it's a puzzle you're trying to figure out and stuff like that. So
yeah, absolutely. One thing I was very curious about too, from watching a lot of the gameplay and trailers and stuff like that, was I guess just the maps. I thought they looked very basic. Each map is a basic little square, and there's like a couple props, but there's no height element to it. There's no like walls or anything like that, which, once again, when you're watching trailers for this, it's hard to understand how the game works. So like a wall would not really do anything in this game, because every unit can move across the entire map in a turn. That's not really a limitation, is how much like what your speed stat is or what your movement stat is. But I got to say, I think the decoration of the maps I think is great. There's a lot of details in there. Is like in a map in Queens, and there's just like a train going by in the background, or I don't know, certain levels. There's just a lot of detail going on in the background that make them feel pretty lively. but I really like the environmental element of it, where it's almost like it's free actions in terms of card cost. It doesn't cost you that to like use these props, kick a dumpster at someone, or blow up a canister, or throw a box at them.
360 backflip into a punch off of a rock. Yeah.
Yeah, but it takes heroism. So once
Yeah.
again, that's a balance where, like with certain characters, maybe you won't be using the environment much because you're saving every last drop of heroism. But sometimes when you just have way extra heroism, you gotta use that to your advantage. Plus, you can also use that as like free movements in a way. It's
Yes.
limited, right? Because it's like you don't get to choose where to go. You can just, okay, I want to throw this box at someone, and your character will run up and stand in a specific spot. But you can very quickly see where your character is going to go, so you can use that to your advantage. Of, oh, I'm out of moves, but I want to line up this shot here. Maybe I can go over here, throw this box first, and that will lead into this. So the way the combos kind of go outside of your actual cards and into those environmental moves is fantastic. And maybe this is a good spot for us to talk about Spider-Man, because that's kind of his major gimmick, is, or at least with one of his abilities, and I just got a passive for him finally, and it relates to this too, where he is all about using the environment to his advantage, which, like, that is so true to Spider-Man, so it's great in that way. But I love that ability he has where do you have this one yet? Have you used
I have it there. I haven't bought it because I feel now with lots of my later gameplay, I'm going away from the environmental because I was using it a lot, but just because it would eat up the heroism, like
it's
only
situational for sure, and also limited. You can only use what is on the available map.
Exactly. Like, I feel like most of the times I'm using it is now when it's I really want to get this. Like, I got to kill this character for a specific reason. It might be like, okay, even if I can do a little bit more damage, I'm going to throw this rock. So I probably will get it at some point because it's still in my deck. And Spider-Man, I really like him. He's been on the bench for a little bit, but there's just been other cards with Spider-Man that I've been more interested to get up more. But it's a really good one. So I have it there. It's just kind of sitting there waiting of like, okay, when am I going to pull the trigger? And maybe I will soon.
Yeah, the ability I'm talking about gives you additional movements, and all environment attacks are just free for that turn. It might be 2 turns, I forget. Maybe you can upgrade it or something like that. But it is just so fun to pop that and just go around the map using like all of them at once. And then the passive, so I guess the passive doesn't necessarily go well with that ability, but if you didn't have that ability, you could still take use of it, where it gives you like a % chance to refund the heroism cost of using an environmental attack. So that could be pretty cool too, where you could just get like bonus attacks for free, but obviously it's this % chance, so you're taking a bit of a risk there. So I don't know if that's something you can upgrade, but I like that that's the gimmick they gave for Spider-Man, and he does a lot of other good stuff too, but that's just like a nice bonus on top, so to speak.
See, I'm wrong because I think the card that I have right now is maybe it's the first updated version where it's like you just like they're 50% stronger or something like that.
Yeah, there's that one too, but yeah, this other one gives you like, I think, 2 movements, and all heroism like environments are just free for that turn.
Okay,
so you
well
can
then,
just pop off and use a bunch of stuff.
Okay, well then, see, I didn't know about that, so now I gotta look into that. I gotta get that card. I gotta start making some upgrades and stuff like that. So that's because I only have the other one, and so.
Yeah, I don't know. In that that Sabretooth fight at the carnival, like those rings of fire that do 150 damage, whatever it was, when you drop them on them, it's like, God, I am taking advantage of that. That is so much damage. You need that. Let's see, where else could we... Okay, I guess we could talk about the redraws too, because this is something that could have just been like a very basic mechanic, but I think they once again tried to like infuse layers of depth into everything, and they've done a great job here where, yeah, basic, okay, I don't really need this card right now, I'm just going to redraw. You get 2 redraws a turn. There's ways to get more redraws. But then certain characters, like certain cards, I guess will get bonuses where when you redraw them, essentially it's just a whole other effect. So a good ability for Hunter to have is like, I can either change, it's a free action to like put a heroic card in my cost just is free for that turn, so that's pretty nice. Or if I redraw that, I go concealed, so I can just use that to go stealth mode. So that's pretty cool. But then like Iron Man is the complete opposite, where you need to use redraws to like enhance his abilities, and I think that's so interesting the way they made the redraws into kind of a resource and commodity that you have to use. So yeah, maybe if you have a character that has a very variable deck, and maybe you don't want them with Iron Man because you want to save redraws for him, but I think that adds so much strategy to it as well. Of, okay, these redraws are so valuable. Do I want to redraw this card, or do I want to buff this Iron Man ability? I think it's a very fun balance for him.
Yeah, no, you said pretty much everything I would have on the redraws. I think they're creative. I like that there's different power ups where you can get like a free redraw and stuff like that. Like I feel like they are crucial to the game, and I feel like they put you in situations where you might have this great card, but you know what? It might not be good in this situation. And I like that you get two because and that's where it's tough though, because when you redraw one that does have a redraw, it just goes that power up right away. So it's tough. So it's like kind of eats it. Like you're looking for a new card. But and it can be punishing. That's like a good way because it's kind of maybe you're maybe not foresight of planning around and stuff. But I think it's a really good strategic thing that's in this as far as how it works and when you can use it and stuff like that. And you can use it at any point as long as you have them. You don't gotta wait to the end, middle, beginning, end, whatever you want. You can use that redraw, and it's a good thing to have. Or what I like too is like let's say there's a guy that's been dead for a while, you can clear out his cards. If you know, okay, I only got one revive, they're not coming back. I'll use up all I can, and then, okay, sorry, Blade, all your stuff's gone,
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. Sorry, Blade. Yeah, he died.
Yeah.
I was just going to make another note, but I'll go to this instead, which is I wish you could make different decks for each character and have them like preloaded. I think for me, it particularly comes up with Hunter, where I'd love if I could just make like a full support deck for when I want that, or I'm kind of going down the dark path, so I have some more also they're very strong abilities, but they're way less consistent, which I think is a fun balance.
Use this card and it eats every card in your deck and you never see it again. Yeah.
Or the Berserk ability, which is super strong, where you can make an opponent just like they'll attack the thing nearest to them for 2 turns. But sometimes that does not go the way you want it to, or you'll use it and then you accidentally use an ability on someone else and you forgot that would move them close to that enemy, and then, okay, now they're just getting struck. Or you're trying to defend like a coil and you're like, okay, they're not going to attack that, but then the Berserk makes them... so it can go all ways, but that's something...
See, that's why I'm on the light side. I'm not dealing with any of that stuff,
I think Hunter's the only character so far that I genuinely want that with, but I think as I go through, I'm not really salvaging many cards. I want to keep, at least 2 of everything so that I can switch around and do some cool decks if I have the option to, and I'm not hurting for the essences, for the skill essences, power essence, all that stuff. So that's something I'd like to see added. I feel like that could be an easy thing to patch in, but I almost wonder if that goes against what they want, or do they want you to essentially just almost have like a fake skill tree in a way where you're building up your character in a specific way and you're not changing around the fly? Because from a realism perspective, I guess it didn't really make sense if your character's like learning these abilities, getting stronger at these abilities, and then you can just like forget how to use those and instead you're using the other things. So I don't know if that's part of it for them, but it's like, okay, well, this is actually how the game works, so just let me make multiple decks, please.
Yeah. See, I'm the reverse, where I would still like that feature, but most time, if there's a card that's in there, even if I like it enough, but I know I'll probably not use that much, I'm salvaging it right away. Like most of my characters, there's a few of them still trying some other things out. Even with Hunter, there's a few new cards because I'm more on the light side, so I'm always unlocking something. And there was a card I was rocking for a while that was really strong. It was called like Fury, or the Paths of Fury, and I liked it. But then when I found out what the upgraded one, I was like, this doesn't really go into my play style. So like I traded it up for a card that is lower, but it's something where you get some knockout, you get 2 free cards right away. So it's like, that I'm definitely a card builder. That's my type of play style. I like just having a bunch of cards to spam, because also with Strange, I'm usually rocking 4 turns. So it's like, if I can get as many cards, then I have so many options. So that's why it's like, even if there's a powerful card with Hunter, so I would still like that, because it would have been nice. Okay, this is my powerhouse one where he can just come in and this is 100 here, 120 here, 84, and he can just come in and be the tank, even though he's a small guy or gal, whoever you picked. Like, who did you go with? You got a guy or gal?
I went with the gal. I felt like that was the canon route. I feel like all the marketing had her.
That's fair, yeah.
So I went that way, and I intentionally tried to make her kind of look like Elsa Bloodstone. It was like what the look I was going for. When I first booted up the game, I was like, man, there's not a lot of customization here, but it's because you unlock a shit ton of things later on. But the default is like, I went through that in 30 seconds. That was very fast.
For day one, I had that as a big con when I'm like, this is the hair color, eye color.
They said this is the greatest Marvel character builder in any game ever. I'm like, I don't know about that, but now I'm like, okay, I'm with you.
I was like, hair color, eye color, and skin color. That's it. That's all you got not for me here. But no, I went with the guy because now all my default created characters is I made the same character from Elden Ring, Vengeance. He's always got the whitest skin possible. Yeah, he always got the whitest skin possible. He has black hair and red eyes. Every time I create a character, Vengeance is my
That actually fits. So you should be going down the dark route because that sounds like a devil character, and that would definitely
yeah,
be in the
but it's
magic.
Like Batman. It's like Kylo Ren. They're trying to redeem themselves. I guess for
the
me,
red
it's just
eyes that puts you over. You're far gone. You're too far gone.
No, that's the point. He's coming.
You can
back.
unlock. I don't know if you unlock. You get devil horns. That would be a good mix for your character.
Yeah, I've seen. They're a little too much. They're a little too big and stuff like that.
Oh, I had like little ones.
Okay.
I don't know. Maybe there's multiple sets.
Sometimes Blade has like some red eyes going on. You know, people are on,
true.
And that for me, that's what I like in my headcanon that I've made is because they talk about them being on the dark path. That's why I like that of me taking the light side because it's similar to Blade where he has the same thing where I'm just trying to work my way back to be a hero. So I feel like with him, with Wolverine, I get to connect with those guys that are have some darkness in them, but we're trying to do the right thing. I guess for me, it's like, when do you want to talk about the light and the dark system?
Okay, I have one more combat thing, and then we can move on to that, which is I've never seen any other tactics game do this to my memory, and I've played quite a few. But I think the addition of the kind of cannon fodder / goon type enemy is a great idea. It's just an enemy that is a one-hit kill no matter what. Any form of damage, like a knockback won't do it. If you knock them into something, it will. But anything that has even 1 damage, it'll knock them out. I think this is a great addition because, once again, goes into that superhero power fantasy of just fucking people up and destroying them, and sometimes a superhero just needs to one-punch someone. I think it adds a lot to the tactics of it. It makes it so if the map, when you first get into a map and there's enemies everywhere, it feels like overwhelming in a way. But that's just also such a big part of superhero movies, and I'm sure the comics as well, where they're just destroying goons, and that's a big part of it. So I think to have weaker units that you can take out in one turn is great for the pacing of it because you don't have to spend multiple turns mess around with these things, but then also works well for the combo. So that was I'm sure we'll talk about the combat more with certain characters and stuff, but I think that was kind of my last note there for that.
Well, and the goons too, it all depends on the situation you're in because sometimes you look and the reinforcements come and you're I'm just so close, but other times too, if you got a quick attack, you can use these goons to easily build up your heroism. So sometimes it might be like, oh crap, look how outnumbered I am, but honestly sometimes it's good. But yeah, there's nothing more satisfying than knocking back one goon into the other just on the run, you know, and like they're pretty easily dispatched. So it's just like, to me, sometimes I almost applaud them for coming because they can just help me get ready for the bigger guy. Does it take a little longer? Sure, but you know, that's all right.
Yeah. Let's go into the light and dark system here.
So like, because I'd heard people compare this before, and they've used Kotar so many times in reviews. I've heard like people bring that up because obviously that's Star Wars. You're the light side, the dark side. That's what you go with, right? Same thing, and I appreciate that. You unlock new powers and stuff like that and everything. I think for me, why, and this will ask you, is I'm not sure, are you going to dark side because you like the story aspect or just because you think those cards are more a tribute to what your play style is?
So truthfully, I'm honestly like pretty close to neutral, where most of the time I am trying to pick dark side, but I also I'm not trying to pick the ones that are intentionally like me being a bully to people, if that makes sense. Like I pick the dark things that are more just like, I guess, ethical, moral things. Like my character comes from that background is the way I'm looking at it, but I don't want to just like call like Peter Parker an asshole.
Yeah,
you know?
or like when Nico's like, screw the caretaker, and you're like, yeah, she's something's wrong with her. Yeah.
But I also am, I feel like I'm being a bit of a schmoozer where depending on the character, like, you know, almost everything Captain America, when you talk to him, he wants you to
Captain
pick the light thing, right? And that's how you get the relationship up. But I've also spent a lot of time with Nico and Magic, and they are very dark, brooding characters.
Yes.
So I think that's part of it too, where almost every time, I think Magic 100% of the time, pick the dark option and you'll get the heart up on that. So I think that's part of it too. But yeah, my slider is definitely on the dark side, but it's not like way up there at 11 o'clock. Like it's in the 7, 8 o'clock kind of range.
Mine's pretty high in the light and stuff like that, because that was where my thing, where I agree with you, where the darkness, sometimes it did feel like, okay, you're picking different routes, but then sometimes it was just, yeah, fuck you, Peter Parker. It's just like, why in the context would you say this in the game? Like, I think some of them, they shouldn't have done that. I think, and this is, I'm not trying to do that, what you should have done, but to me, what they could have done, instead of a light side and dark side, they play up this whole thing of it's Midnight Suns versus Avengers, Midnight Suns versus Avengers. I wish they went that route, where you're getting these powers because you're more on the Avengers side or you're more on the Midnight Sun side, because I feel like they play up this game, this whole dynamic of who you're gonna choose. But really, my problem is you can go to Nico and you can be like, you know what, Nico, fuck Tony Stark, and points up right all around, and then you can go to Tony Stark and say, yeah, you know, what did I say? I said Nico. Either way, you can go to both characters and pick their side, and that's what I don't like about it, because it's kind of cheesing. Where that's something about Knights of the Republic that I did like, where it feels like, okay, once you're dark, you kind of have to stay in line with that. Like you're going that way because you personally believe that way. I don't like that. I can go to Nico and pretty much just say, knowingly as a gamer, say exactly what she wants to hear. And like I said, if she says screw Tony Stark, and then I go to Tony Stark and just say, oh yeah, screw Nico. That's what I feel like. There's no weight with the choices there, other than, okay, it's just for me to get other cards and play. Sure. So that's why I wish they did the Avengers thing. So it's like, okay, if you say that to Nico, Tony Stark should say, hey, like, I heard what you said, and that shouldn't be an option anymore, you to be friendlier with Tony. So that's, I think that they kind of missed the mark on this kind of choosing a side, because even there's one point in the game where you have a meeting, you can easily just go, you both have your issues, you know, like you don't. I was waiting for them, like, oh, this is gonna be the moment where I have to choose. Spoilers for Knights of the Republic. There's a moment where, like, no matter what your tree is, you have to choose. Are you light side or dark side? There's no in the middle. You're either turning on the good guys. And there's this moment where, it's a mini spoilers, but a caretaker asks, like, there's a big issue going on. Like, who do you side with? Are the Avengers right or Midnight Suns? And it's like, okay, we're finally going to commit to like a real choice here. But then you have you know what, you're both wrong and you're both right, but we can be a team. And I wish that they played that up a bit more, and the choices as far as dialogue trees, you can just go around and be everyone's friend. You know, that's where I feel like there's no dynamics, where I feel like I've played other games like this before where, okay, you're closer with the character A, but because you're closer with character A, you can no longer be close with character B, because their motives don't match up. But this one, you could have everyone like 10% their friend, like all the way. So that's my issues with the light and dark of the story aspect of it and some of the character stuff.
I hear you. I agree and I disagree. Okay, so I guess one question I have for you then is, like, what kind of consequences are you wanting here? Because when I think about, like, this game is linear, right? Like, I don't think there's different endings to this. No. It's not like there's a dark campaign where you end up siding with Lilith and take out the Avengers. It's not like if you don't side with the Avengers in those moments, Captain America won't join your team or something. Like, I guess, what are the consequences you want out of that? Is it more of those things where, like, if you do enough Avengers things, Nico just leaves? Is that...
No, I think it should be like the way you're talking about. I agree with you. That's just going to be you winning. So it's like, if you just win, what's the point of you just turning dark? Because there's so many times the dark things will just be like, and I'm so powerful, no one could stop me. Like, it's insinuating like your character would go on to do something really bad. But really, it's probably not going to be that. You're just going to defeat Lilith and move on. I think it's just the same way too. Like, the friendship overall, you have... So it's me, it's the GeekVerse, right? And we all have these charts of who's friends. And then if we're all friends on certain levels, there's an overall friends chart, right? Of like, okay, you've got a percentage that keeps going up, going up, going up. I think my problem is that that's just for everybody. It's mutual for everybody. So I think there should be something of, hey, if you're better friends with a Tony here or the Avengers, you're going to be better on missions if you're bringing an Avenger. Like, let's say they consider you an Avenger. If you have 2 Avengers on your team, that's some sort of power buff. That's some sort of this. That's not really the case. I feel like, to me, it's kind of like the way when you complain about skill trees. That's how I feel like this friend system is. It's just, I can just be friendly with everybody, have a good relationship with everybody. And I can, like, the character, that's my problem is when
that
you're
not
just...
the character you're role-playing, though, of being, like, going light options and, like, being nice to everyone?
But no, because the thing is, I still will go dark if I just want to get the friend point. Because if I get a friend point, that's still going to make my team stronger, right? So that's my thing of, like, I think they've sacrificed the story choices for making the whole team stronger. Because why would if, like you said, I learned early on, okay, if you don't say dark stuff to Nico, it's going to be negative friendship points. So why would I just knowingly tank her friendship levels? Like, what do I get out of that? If it was, hey, what you get out of that is you're stronger with Cap, you're stronger with Tony, then say, okay, I get it. But it really pays me no reason to not be dark around her. Like, even if my character, I've chosen not to do that, why would I not choose to get the friend points and XP bonuses and stuff like that? That's where I think it doesn't make sense.
I mean, first of all, I think from my experience with it, I think Magic might be an exception where it's like, yeah, I think the dark option is, like, always the right one, but I don't know, like Nico as well, like she probably leans that way.
Yeah.
But I wouldn't say like it's not just like, okay, pick dark option, get plus heart. I mean, that's not even the case with magic. Sometimes sometimes you're not even supposed to pick the light or dark. You're just supposed to pick whatever the neutral thing is. I guess for me, it's the framing of it in two ways. One is that your character is like literally a demon, and so I feel like sometimes like those really dark things when they come out, it's like, oh yeah, deep down my character is quite literally a demon, like child of a demon, and like has this dark past, and it almost makes sense, and like they don't know like they don't know what's been going on in the last couple hundred years in the real world. They don't know how to interact, which sometimes I think they kind of just forget about, and your character is like a regular modern day person. So it's maybe not entirely consistent, but you know, the framing of it I mean, this is like a point in the story, I guess, but I always kind of felt like I was the leader anyway, but then you have this meeting where you officially get, you know, upgraded to leader status. And so that's where I think where it's different, where a leader should be bringing everyone together, and you are all in the same team, and you all have the same cause. Where if I compare this to another RPG that has decisions like this, that's not always the case, where you have different political parties, or you have people with different needs and wants in the world, and they have different goals. Whereas, you know, there is different goals here. Like some people want to save Wanda, some people want to save Hulk, but at the end of the day, they all just want to fuck up Lilith and save the day. So I think maybe that's where I'm less bothered by that, where to me, you know, trying to be everyone's best friend is like kind of objectively the best thing to do as the leader of this group.
Right? Yeah, it is. I guess it's not fulfilling from a character standpoint. When if I just want to be a light side guy and I've chosen, hey, I want to be the straight up redeeming hero, gonna save the world, and then I'll just all of a sudden just being like, yeah, I hate the caretaker, she's worse. It's just like, but then you'll go have this conversation where she'll be like, I'm proud of you, and he's just like, I'm just doing what you taught me. It's just like what? Like it just they don't line up, and I feel like it's just someone kind of having, like, if you watch a stream and it feels like sometimes the choices are, oh, we're just gonna make them say this because it's kind of fun. So it's not a big con, but it's something that kind of withheld it from being like a perfect experience for me. That would always take it out. And then I threw it to the side eventually, just went, okay, whatever. I'm just going to build up the friendship, get the stats and stuff like that. My hardest one to crack always was Captain Marvel, because I always felt like I was saying the wrong thing to her.
Yeah, I agree. She's a tough nut to crack.
Yeah, like there's just certain things we'll say, but I feel like we've had since book club and some other things, we've had a come around and stuff like that.
I don't know what haven to take her to. I don't know what she wants to do. I don't know if she wants to go for a picnic. If she wants to go
I took her to a picnic. Yeah, I took her to a picnic. She seemed to like that. Yeah, but it's weird. She just, I
also don't know what gift to give her. I don't know what she wants. I have all these things. I have like 15 gifts in my inventory. I have no idea what to give her.
I gave her like an 18-year-old aged root beer because I thought she might like that. And she said,
but it was the Canadian root beer. I'm saving that for Wolverine.
But I don't know. Maybe I was wrong if it was the root beer. There was something I did give her, and she commented on. So I'm like, okay, she must have liked this one and stuff. So, and that's the stuff I do like. I think I just maybe would have preferred if they weren't light and dark. Maybe that's the way. If like they would have been, like I said, the more, and not so much like Marvel Ultimate Alliance 2 had like diplomatic, like, and those were very lame. But that's where my pitch is. I wish they maybe just made more, you know, Midnight Suns versus Avengers choices in a way, but at the end of the day, it's kind of tough because if you're talking to certain characters and you don't have that dynamic, I do understand. It's not a big thing, but I think it is a little messy, but it's still fun, and I get why they don't have it, but I really wish they did have romance options here, because me and Magic would be going to the altar right now. She is my best friend, but like, it's weird because the game kind of hints as those things, because Magic will be like, we have a much stronger connection than most people, and Hunter's just like, I value you a lot. And it's just like the characters, even Captain Marvel, which was really weird because, you know, Blade her have a little thing going. She said something about being more than friends, but like, I think they were trying to insinuate like partners, like superhero partners or something, but it didn't come off that way. So I wish they had the romance option, because it would have been tons of fun, but I get why they don't.
That would be so hard to pick. Oh man, who would I pick to romance out of this?
Oh, group? Magic for sure. Me and her, like, we had a great bonding experience in the limbo. I'll just say that.
That was a good moment. I like that.
And I can't remember what I gave her as a gift, but it was something dark and she really liked it.
She likes music, so I gave her like a music box usually.
I gave her a music box, and then I gave her something else at the Haven too and everything. Like, who's your best friend right now? Who's like your highest friend stat?
I think it might be Magic, actually. Yeah. Magic or Nico would probably be my highest. Blades, I think, up there too.
Yeah,
Blades, and Doctor Strange too was like, I was almost neglecting him. I didn't. Well, maybe neglect's not the right word. I wasn't spending as much.
He's an
time with him.
asshole in this game. He
But then
really is.
I think I did like one Haven and one Hangout, and I like nailed them, but like bought like full stats on all of them. So he just shot way up the wheel, like he just instantly did like a full loop on there. So
I did that with
pretty quick at times.
Yeah, I did that with Cat because right now it's Magic, Blade, and Cat was at 0, but me and him have just had some good experiences, and it's just shot way up and stuff like that. Because I gave him a book after a book club, and he was a fan of that. I can't remember what it was, and I also gave Tony a book, the Book of Trauma, and that worked too. That was a good
the childhood trauma one.
Childhood trauma. Yeah, I gave that to Tony.
I think I gave that to Nico. I'm like, oh, you need after she was telling me about her Runaways storyline. I'm like,
oh yeah,
take this book, please.
And that's like I said, as much as I have problems with that, I still really enjoy that aspect. They don't have to add that in there. It doesn't have to be a thing, but it adds to the experience so much more. And you actually feel like somehow more bonded with these characters. So the same way like me and Robbie aren't that good of friends, I don't feel as bonded with him. So that's probably why I take him on less missions and stuff like that, But the people that are, and I maybe I'm wrong, but the friendship other than the whole team, a singular friend doesn't give you a bonus, right? Or anything like that?
Like level 1 of friendship, you mean?
Like no, like let's say if Magic's your best friend, she's not more stronger than other people because she's your best friend, right? I don't think so.
Other than the unlocks that you'd get from leveling them up, like because at level 2 is when you get the passive for everyone. I don't actually, and then when you like the more friendship level you have, the more big gifts you can buy, which would lead into more friendship. But I don't like. I think Magic's level 3 for me right now, or almost level 3, so I don't actually know what those buffs are. But I guess there's got to be something when you hit 5, something like really you get like better passives, I'm guessing, or just other stat things. I'm not too sure.
Yeah, okay. I was wondering because I know you get the team one that does the overall, but that's something I would have liked to see if we ever got a second assault. Was like if you're taking your best friend on more missions, it's going to be stronger because you guys have like a better chemistry or a better connection or something like that.
I think one thing that happens, I think if you do hang out with someone, like they'll get that kind of green buff in the next mission too that you get from training.
Like start with 2 heroism points.
So the next mission they'll get a little bit of a bonus too.
That's
so you're incentivized to do it again.
But it's tons of fun because like you said it, the dialogue. Blade is the best. Blade has like voice actors great. He has the best lines. Like there's the hangouts don't feel bad. They don't feel overly long and stuff like that. They're the right amount and they're lots of fun. I like the variation, everything like that. And I like Piggy. So yeah, no, and it's funny you talk about Strange because Strange was like my best friend for a while. And then me and him weren't jiving in the middle because like I said, he's an asshole. He's very arrogant as usual. But no, overall, like I said, the light and dark I'm having my issues with, but the friend stuff, I really enjoy that. And I'm having a ball with it.
I agree. Let's talk about the friends some more after our second ad break here. Okay, we are back. So yeah, let's keep talking about this. So the clubs are a fun addition here. This is not something I expected. I knew that we'd be doing hangouts and just chilling around the Abbey and doing some training and stuff like that. But I think the clubs are a fun addition there too. I think the book club is like, it was like the funniest one for me that it's even a thing. And particularly that Blade started it. I like that he started it because he was trying to, maybe hang out with Captain Marvel, but then Steve was there and Steve's kind of oblivious. So he overheard. He's like, oh, we're doing a book club now. So he got in there.
Did you get to the conversation of Steve wondering if he started the book club just to be friends with him? Did you get that?
Yeah, I love that part too.
So and I chose the nice part, but there was a thing like, no, you're misreading the entire situation. Like I can't be mad, but I love that he misreads and thinks Blade started the book club to get closer to Steve, but no, it was to get closer to Carol and stuff like that.
And I think you're just at this point of getting Wolverine, right? Have you just finished the mission, or have you hung out?
Just finished the mission. I'm gonna probably take him on a hangout soon because that's where I'm struggling of like, do I want to get people up to 5 or do I want to get some of the lower people up more? And that's where I don't know. And that's where, if you mention about the passives, it's like I'm maybe more inclined to get them up there, but at the same time I want Wolverine's passives because like I've only played 2 missions with Wolverine and I can tell he's so good. He's gonna be up there. That regen power, he's the same thing. Like you talk about multiple characters, but he's another one I feel like, man, when you get all those passive upgrades, how OP is this guy gonna be? Like, and that's where I'm excited to get to more difficulties, because eventually you'll feel like, oh, he's so OP, and then it's like, no, you thought you knew, and no, he's not. But
They knock you back down.
they did such a great job with Wolverine. I love the regen power, the fact that you got like a free revive, not free, but like an additional revive. It's like, I want to bring this guy, like my missions are just going to be Strange and him with somebody. But and before, my missions were always Strange and Blade with somebody, because what I love with the Strange and Blade combo is I can do all this magic with Strange, but I can make people bleed. So maybe I'm not using attack cards, but people are still getting injured while I'm doing magic. So
yeah, I'm really liking Wolverine. I like that they kind of dangle him in front of you earlier on in the game, where you get to do a quest with him, just you and Hunter, and then he goes away for many, many hours.
Yeah.
And then when you finally get him back, it feels like a really good moment. I got the like, I think it's like a legendary costume for him, or it's the same costume, but it's like the blue and yellow color scheme.
Oh, okay.
Like that classic one. So
it's like a free unlock, right?
I don't think so. I paid good money for it, because by default he has like the yellow and like brown kind of one.
Yeah,
right?
but you can't change the color of it. I was wondering if you could get a blue and yellow one, but
it cost me 300 gloss, but I'm like, oh hell yeah, I'm buying this immediately.
Oh no, I meant, is it free? Like, is it not like it's in-game currency, right? Not like
yeah.
Okay, because there's a couple costumes that are you gotta pay outside. That's
that one I just like got out of a rune chest, and then I had to buy it with gloss. But
I'm looking for that one, because I do love the tan costume, but I'm looking for that blue and yellow and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So, and that's great too. All the costumes and color schemes, that's tons of fun. So.
Let's talk about. Well, I guess talking about the clubs some more. I like that all of them kind of feed back into the main game in a certain way. Where the emo kid storyline is kind of giving you just a lot of backstory on your character, which is interesting. And then shop class is where you're kind of building buffs against certain bosses, which might sound like kind of weak on its surface, but then you're fighting the bosses multiple times over again. So it actually is pretty helpful to get bonuses that are like very strong against them specifically, which brings that up. Like, how do you feel about that? I was almost on the cusp of feeling like I'm kind of doing a lot of the same things here, and then like part one ended, and like, okay, now it's a whole new thing. But for a bit there, I was feeling like, man, I've fought Venom 6 times now. Like, this is I like the boss fight. He's got cool mechanics and all, and I'm enjoying the combat and progression so much that in the moment I'm totally fine with it. But in a meta sense, I'm like, wow, they're really reusing this one. Did that hit you the same way?
Yeah, I thought it was one too many. I thought just scale, like, because obviously there's a big one in the in a tower and stuff like that. But I think one in the middle you could have chopped. It reminded me a lot of the experiences we had with Avengers, where we just kept fighting Abomination over and over. So I think what they should have with Venom is either cut out one of those fights or sprinkle them more throughout the game. I get the story point of why it was at the beginning, but I think they're like. And we talked about this before. I'm not saying, it would have been easy, but I would have preferred another villain, even if it was just a one-off. Like, you're just going to fight this villain one time in the middle. So I agree, and I hope that doesn't happen, because I'm already worried with Sabretooth. Because
I think it'll be a bit of the same there.
So that to me might be a con. If we get rid of Sabretooth, then let's say we meet Abomination, or even someone like a Hulk or something like that, like some big character, and same thing. We just fight them 3 to 4 times.
Especially because they can show up randomly in general missions too.
Yes.
And they're a weaker version. They don't have 2 health bars, but
it still feels repetitive. Yeah. So I hope that's not the case, but I feel like that's going to be. So that honestly will be a con for me. Not a big one, but it's just funny that I feel like it sucks that like the game, like I like the game enough, but Gotham Knights for me did a good job of like a lot of variety of different villains in there, like the main villains, where I feel like the Marvel games, like Marvel Avengers, we had an issue with that. If this is a repetitive thing in this game where it's like, oh, you meet one villain, you fight them 3 to 4 times, it's like, can we get some different villains, even if they're similar, like big guy villains? Just like there's tons of characters in the Marvel, like this game shows it how many characters, even with the main cast. It's like, give us some different people to fight here. And I do appreciate getting new enemy types and stuff, like, even if they're similar, like different skins and stuff, but main guys, like, give us more, well,
even to that point as well, is I don't know, I wonder if that's just like they spent so much development time on the heroes' movesets and like the different base enemy types, and when they got down to like villains, they're like, oh, we don't have as much time for work on this, because if you think about it, like, we know that Scarlet Witch and Banner are going to become playable characters at some point. So you would think that they're going to have movesets that obviously they wouldn't have the same boss gimmick that they have, but like, Scarlet Witch uses a chaos field. Like, I'm sure that's a move, a card that she has. So there's even that. And then like Venom, they announced as one of the DLC characters.
Okay, I was going to say, I couldn't
Mm-hmm.
remember if he's DLC or not. So,
yeah, the DLC is Venom, Morbius, of all people, which they said I saw an interview where they're like, oh, we picked that far before the Morbius memes and all that stuff. Like
they had to.
They've known about him for a while. Deadpool and Storm. I'm very excited for Storm. That one I think is going to be a very fun moveset.
Yeah, I don't know who I'm the Storm. I think so, but yeah, there's something about Morbius. He might be like somehow I'm actually the least excited about Deadpool.
I feel like Morbius could be very close to a Blade or Wolverine, where it's like a lot of chain attacks, probably a lot of lifesteal. Bleed.
But I feel like his actual like animation stuff are gonna be really fun and cool.
He was super fun in
like
Ultimate Alliance 3,
yes.
so hopefully he gets the same treatment.
Yeah, and Deadpool, I'm excited for, but I always feel like he's like the meme pick. He's the popular pick. I get it. Yeah. Playing this game, I really did miss the fact that maybe there could be more, but the fact that there is no Moon Knight actually made me a lot sadder. Like, if I would have just thought this game was fine, it would have been whatever, but the fact that I'm loving this game and I don't have a Moon Knight, I'm pretty salty about that.
Well, let's hope it's a big success then and we get more DLC down the line.
But, the bosses we'll see, but at the end of the day, it's also not a massive gripe, like you said, because I'm enjoying it so much. Like, okay, whatever, it's fine. I'll just have to mix it up a little bit. Even though now I'm doing a lot of, I try to streamline the story as much as possible. A lot of times I will log and say you gotta do a side mission, or I'll go do it if I need some essence. But now I am more so, not even because I want to streamline it, just because I realized when Wolverine was gone for so long, I'm like, okay, I want to start getting a pill because if she's disappointed, I'm going to be disappointed. I want Scarlet Witch. I want to see how she plays, because someone like Nico, when we first started, she was fine, but she was in my bottom 2. Now she might be my top 5. The more I unlock with her, the more I powered up and stuff like that. So that's a good thing with characters. You never know till you play with them a bit more. But Scarlet Witch, I'm very excited to see what they did with her moveset and stuff like that. So.
Yeah, I mean, she has some cool moves already in her boss fight against her, so I'm very excited for her too, especially because once again that was a Ultimate Alliance 3, Doctor Strange and Scarlet Witch, my two most anticipated characters, ended up being kind of disappointing. So I mean, I'm feeling pretty certain, considering that what do we have, 11 characters unlocked now ish, and every single one of them is amazing. There's not even one of them that's just like okay, like they're all amazing. So I'm feeling pretty good about Scarlet Witch. And I don't really know anything about Hulk because they didn't show him off in trailers or anything. Well, I think they maybe showed him off as like he was in the game, but he was set up as a villain. So I'm very curious to see that moveset. I'm sure he'll have a bit of taunt in his moveset as well.
We're not getting him to the very end, are we?
Maybe he'll get like more environmental damage or something. Yeah, he's probably going to be a late game one as well.
Which is going to be fun because we don't have a tank person on the main roster right now, like out of who we got.
Do you mean like a big guy?
Yeah, like a big guy. Yeah. Like you have characters you can make a tank, but I mean like you don't have that classic like the huge, and like between him and Venom, that's fun that we'll have that going on. And even stuff, that's why I want a sequel. They talk about Fantastic Four. It's like I'd love to have these characters. Like I hope there's more stuff.
I know. I want them to just keep making these games forever now. Like,
and I hadn't
fuck XCOM. Let's keep doing Midnight Suns and then like the X-Men game. Yeah, just do it all.
Oh, like I said, imagine if you just had this, but just X-Men. Like it's just gonna be X-Men character, Xavier, getting a Magneto in this game. You kidding me and stuff? But cool. No, I hadn't bought the DLC, but I will be buying the DLC now because I wanted to wait. I thought I would like it, but I still want to see because it was something new. But every
remain to be seen like how much content is in there outside of the character you get, because they've mentioned new levels, story. Hopefully, like at least a new boss or two for each one. I guess. I mean, go back to the bosses a little bit. I am really liking all those fights so far, but yeah, like they are reusing them a bit, but like Crossbones has cool mechanics to him.
Crossbones fucking juicing in this game.
Sabretooth can be a bit scary too because of his just frenzy that he has forever. Scarlet Witch was pretty terrifying when I had to fight her, and then she showed up as well in a random quest as well, which was funny because she showed up and I had Nico in the mission, and there was like no conversation about it. I'm like, that was a bit weird. I don't know, maybe they should have had like a couple of recorded lines for like this particular scenario, but I understand that is a very niche situation that could pop up.
And I will say a good thing as like a tip to people with the story, always make sure you're not leaving one character by themselves, because just randomly in that Scarlet Witch mission, it's like, you got to bring Nico and Magic. And I get it because they had the character types, but you didn't choose. Luckily, this was at a time where I was really digging Nico, so she was getting upgrade, and Magic I quite like. Magic, like I said, she's my friend. There's some powers I'm not a big fan of the drops, because I don't really do the percentage game, because I feel like it's a risky move. But at that time, I had actually got them a bit more powerful. But I thought, man, this would have sucked if I had played this mission and really left them alone. So that's why even there's like right now, like I said, I feel like I've kind of left my Ghost Rider on the side, but it's like, okay, I got to bring him on a few more just in case I ever get, I'm fighting Mephisto, and now I have to bring Ghost Rider with me, and he's like a level like 7 or something, you know?
Yeah, I think they have a note in there, like a tooltip that says that, if a character, like they'll bring a character up to a certain level.
Yeah.
If you hadn't used them in a while. So if like, you haven't played Ghost Rider in a few levels and he's level 4 or something, they'll like bring him up to not quite Hunter's level, but a little bit below, I guess. So he's still usable. And then
but I don't want that. I want them to be ready, you know?
Yeah, well, because, you're still not going to have, like, more cards at your disposal or upgraded cards. But then I think also with that tooltip is that, like, each fight is balanced, like, relative to your levels and stuff like that. So that's interesting if every single encounter is, like, being scaled to where you're at, which I guess would make sense because, as we mentioned, like, there's a lot of bonus stuff you can be doing at the Abbey that you really could skip if you want to. And that would put you pretty far behind in the experience side of things.
Do the missions do that though, or they say it hard, right? Like hard, normal. He's like, I don't know. Do they like level adapt?
Probably to some extent, but they would tweak the number so hard would always be harder than pretty straightforward in that way. But that brings up something too, which is I think they do a good job of forcing you to cycle through the different characters in a couple different ways, and giving you ways to level up characters, where sometimes you'll just have a training that's like, upgrade this character to level 12. So I'm like, I'm going to use my level 8 character and give them literally 4 levels from this one thing. So they do offer other ways for you to get your characters in line, at least on stats. And then obviously, once again, the cards, you can craft them and stuff, but you want to bring them on your missions. But I think a couple ways. One is like the hero ops missions, which are you essentially just send a character on. There's like a little blurb of text, but you don't really have to read that. Essentially, just send a character out. They'll go do this mission. They'll come back with some experience and a new card that you can pick from.
I haven't done one in a while. I've been having trouble finding some crypto intel and stuff.
The intel, I had that same issue too.
I even ran out. Start.
I even ran out of currency for a couple of days there, so I couldn't do any training. So it's something that I didn't really think about. Like, I didn't even realize that training took money because I had never bumped into it. And then I'm like, why can't I do this? I'm like, I literally don't have any money. That's why.
Yeah. Credits I've watched. Yeah, credits I'm always, because I know there's always going to be some big machine I need to purchase. And I'm like, I always got to make sure I at least got $25 so I can be training people and stuff.
But yeah, I'm at a point now where I got the unlock for the hero ops thing where I can do 2 at a time. So if I'm doing that, 2 people are there. Let's say someone's injured from the previous battle, so they're lounging out in the bath all day. So there might be like certain characters that are just like taken out of the pool. So I think that's good. Now, if you are someone who, like, let's say you really like Hunter, Doctor Strange, and Blade, and that's your trio, and you only want to rock with that. Sometimes you might get kicked out of that if they're injured, but if you like play safe, play smart, and don't let them get injured, and don't send them on hero ops, like you could just only use that. I think that would be unfortunate if you did, because there's like each character's moveset is so interesting that you should try and mix and match with everyone. But it seems like they aren't specifically just like locking you out of that. But I personally am really liking the variety, and I like trying different combos too, because you might not realize how well a Nico and like Iron Man work together until you've actually tried it. So I like doing that as well, just to try the different team comps. I don't think I have a set team, and that's pretty exciting for me right now. And also, there's one point in the story where Ghost Rider was kind of sad. He's like, "Oh, no one likes me, and like I never get to go on these missions. I'm not as important." And so I brought him on a couple missions. I'm like, "Okay, I'll let you go on a couple here." And then I ended up really liking him, and I've used him a lot since then as well.
No, I don't think I really have a set team. I do, like I said, I do like to, if I know it's gonna be something very hard, I do like to rock the Doctor Strange and Blade with somebody. But now with me having Wolverine and Cap, those two have got, like, right now I got Strange, and then I got like Blade, Cap, and Wolverine all fighting for that second slot, because Cap, I gotta admit, from Marvel Ultimate Alliance to Avengers to this, developers just nail Captain America. He's like, I don't know why.
That
He's
shield
just,
throw always feels amazing in
yeah,
every game.
he's just, and like even his boost. I will say this is the game that has the best boosts because I feel like sometimes Avengers got a little too close to him being more support with just some of his special abilities. But I love that it is like, okay, you can do a lot of special abilities, but it's also you can draw a bunch of cards or you can give your block to someone else and stuff like that, which is a support, but it just feels like it's a bit more, he's not in the background, and you also just have some cool moves you can do with him. So he's played very fluidly, but yeah, no, the teams are fun because there's one time I went on a mission, it was me as Cap and I had Spider-Man and Ghost Rider, which is like, what a weird combo, just a weird combo of characters, but I rocked it, and that's what's fun. And yeah, even stuff like, I know it's going to be a bit more on the Magic side, but like, oh man, when I put Strange and Nico together, it's like, I got to have a good brawler with them because they're just popping off with, I love Nico's Empower one. Have you got that up to where you can do Empower and then also got a heroism point at the same time? Yeah. And like, just like, I'll just spam, get all those heroism cards, and then I'm just going to do a Strange 4 turns, and then it's just 3 here. Like, it's great. But then like, you got to be careful because you don't want two samey characters. It's the options are fun to play around with.
I want to talk about Nico a bit, which this is an interesting thing with this game's development. When I was listening to an interview, is XCOM is a very traditional tactics game in that Fire Emblem sort of way, where like each time you choose to attack someone, it's like a % chance to hit based on your stats, what the opponent is, are they under cover, what your gun is, all this stuff to determine like, okay, I have a 71% chance to hit this strike. But then when they were trying that with this game, they're like, well, it just doesn't really work. It's very weird if Captain Marvel has a 60% chance to hit someone with a punch. Like, it doesn't feel good for what this game is, with once again that superhero fantasy that I keep bringing up. And so that's where the cards come into it, where there is a randomness of what cards you're going to get, but then there's a 100% success rate of what that card is going to do. There's a reliability with it there. And that's why I like that they could still have a bit of that traditional kind of tactics randomness with Nico, where they made the character have these random effects. But once again, those random effects are determined when you draw the card. So instead of, I use this and I don't really know what it's going to be, and instead you know exactly what it is. So you kind of have to be on the fly of what her utility in each fight is going to be. But I think they back that up by just giving her moves insane amounts of damage, so that even if the effect sucks or it's not helpful for what you need at the moment, sometimes it might just be a supportive one that you don't actually like. I don't need this blood magic. Everyone's full health right now, but like, man, she's just got the damage. I think in general, the animations, I mentioned this earlier, are amazing. I think like there's a punchiness to the game. The sound effects, like, it just feels so good. It feels like a brawler game. It feels like an Ultimate Alliance or Avengers, where like the combos feel that good, even though it's a turn-based card game. Like, that's insane that they achieve that. And Nico's one of those for me, where just the animations, like, she does very witchy things, like she's, rolling her fingers around, or she'll do that one combo and she like rolls her staff like around her neck.
Oh yeah.
And it's like, she's just so stylish and cool. And for me, it's particularly like Magic and Nico are two characters from a Marvel perspective that I don't know anything about them really. Other than I have Magic in Marvel Snap as well, where she creates Limbo as the location. So that's a fun connection there. But yeah, I didn't know anything about their backstory. I've never engaged with the Runaways, and Magic is just not one I've, I guess, seen in the X-Men stuff that I'm familiar with. So
she's a New Mutants.
I haven't watched New Mutants
Anya Taylor-Joy.
I know. I do want to check it out now that I know who that character is. But
and Runaways is also a great show too on Disney Plus. So
yes. Oh, that's on Disney Plus. Okay, maybe.
Yeah, for Canada it is. Sorry,
and I'm guessing Nico's in there. She's one of the main.
Yeah, she's main character. Yeah,
cool. But yeah, I think she's a very compelling character. I like her backstory, and I like that she's kind of the ringleader, as I think they even call her in game, of the Midnight Suns, where they are obviously very pissed that the Avengers have kind of taken over the Abbey, and they're kind of running the show, and they're not putting as much emphasis on saving Wanda as they are when Hulk comes up. But I love when she calls them out for that. I think is a great moment. And she's just so determined to get Wanda back. She's studying in her room all the time. So Nico's a character that I'm like instantly a big fan of. Like, great moveset, great voice acting. I think she's like almost the most like grounded character in a way at a time. And I also just think like her powers and learning about her backstory and what the Staff of One does, how it works, like all that is super captivating for me. So now she's like, man, I want to see this character in the MCU. I want to go watch Runaways. Like, I'm just super into Nico Minoru now.
Yeah, no, it's funny because I was, like I said, wasn't the biggest fan when it started, and even on a friendship level, I felt like I was saying some of the bad things of like it just wasn't clicking. But now we've come a long way, and because I'm completely on the we're gonna save Wanda bandwagon. We're not just gonna kill her and stuff like that. So because hopefully that'll give me some friend points when Wanda comes in. I can just have her OP. But yeah, no, she's. I think like you mentioned, it's with her, but also all the characters that the animations are really fun. They're really hype. Like anytime with Strange, I get to do this. Anytime Blade jumps in the sky, and it's just like a blood red moon, and it just it looks
Blade's
like
chain attack where he's just slicing through it. Oh, it feels so good.
It feels very comic booky in a good way, like the best way possible. Much like Marvel Alliance, I think had that kind of aesthetic at times too, where it feels like okay, we're watching a movie comic book, and that's where sometimes like the lack of it being very great on the graphics kind of can work because it kind of has that kind of like homage, like golden age sort of feel at times. Like I don't mind that Logan's chest hair kind of looks a little meh because it looks like what it would look like in the animated show or something like that, So, but yeah, no, Nico, I really like I've said before that I like everything about one character, even like Riley Reyes, who like I haven't played with Ghost Rider as much as everyone else, but I think he's another grounded one where he's just like a kid, just hanging out and stuff like that. And I love when you can just I actually really love the shop. I love the dynamic of Peter and Robbie and a certain person that comes to try to like crimp their style and stuff like that. I like that little connection. And I don't think he's in my top 3, but Spider-Man 2, he's for a while was hype on the friendship because I feel like I've taken him under my wing, So
yeah, no, I agree that I think Robbie's maybe the least interesting to me on like the personality level, and I've become more attached to his moveset. But I've never really been a big Ghost Rider guy. Even in Ultimate Alliance was, I mean, Taylor always takes him when we're playing, of course. But never really my character. But you were kind of being cagey there about who the person is. But I want to actually talk about that scene because I thought that was very powerful. Where Iron Man comes in, he's like doing his Iron Man thing. He takes over, makes it all about himself, brings in all this new tech, moves his car, all this stuff that pisses him off specifically. But I loved that. I don't know if you saw the scene that you probably have where Robbie's talking about how he looked up to Tony Stark when he was a kid, but then Tony he bought like a local power plant or something from his neighborhood, and he like destroyed it. He was gonna build something new there. He never ended up building anything, or he was just classic billionaire style. I just bought it, did nothing with it. But because of that, it took away the jobs of like everyone in the community. So like a bunch of people left, and the people that were left there just had like this horrible life because he took everything from them, and that's where Robbie is from. And I think that connection between them is so powerful. When he was laying it into him, and then he's pissed, he left, and just like Iron Man's, like Tony's reaction to that was fantastic. Where like that was the first time where he actually just let that layer of being an asshole ego guy down, and he was just like, "Man, I suck. I am a bad person." So I really like that dynamic coming through. I think that was to me like kind of the standout moment for Robbie Reyes so far.
Yeah, that's good. I don't think I've gotten that scene yet. I don't the yelling
small
part.
Spoiler then.
Yeah, no, that's fine because I haven't been asked to go to the shop in a little bit, or I got because I think sometimes that
answer your texts, Travis.
Yeah, I sometimes forget that if you don't check them, they'll still be sitting there waiting and stuff like that. But no, I think that's a good thing. Like we talked about before, it's just little stuff, but I think each character has something little going on, and most of them, other than I'd say like a Peter Parker and maybe Steve, have shades of like the way that you have a light and dark meter. They have that too. It's not just, and it's not like super like deep stuff. I think that one is a deep one, but other characters it might just be like, hey, I'm gonna use some dark magic and stuff like that. But it's like, I don't know, and stuff like that. So I appreciate the little things they've done with the characters and their moments and stuff like that.
I think Blade might be he might be my individual favorite on just the all around package of it in terms of the character element of it. I was mentioning this to you when we were talking on Discord, is just that I'm surprised at how much of a softie he is. He's so goofy, and that's not what I was expecting. I know a few iterations of Blade, but this is not really what I'm used to for the character. But I really liked it. One, because it's unexpected, but he's just so fun. He loves to read. He likes fishing. He likes just the calmer things in life. Yeah, yoga. Yeah, that was a funny scene too. And like anytime anyone talks to him about any vampire stuff and assumes that he is a violent person because of it, he just gets so pissed off in a way. But I think he's also almost like a bit of a peacekeeper. Like he doesn't really, he tries to like stay out of people's drama and just does his own thing. But then when the time comes that he needs to fight in a battle, of course he'll go off. But yeah, I'm really liking Blade here, and I mean we've mentioned it for everyone, but voice acting is fantastic. So yeah, I love Blade, and his moveset is very classic, where it's combo moves, it's applying
Chains.
bleed and life steal. It's like that moveset, but like I think Blade is my favorite character in Ultimate Alliance 3, and he also has a great track record in video games. He's just super fun anytime he's in there.
Yeah, he was great. Because I think you and I share that Ultimate Alliance, that he was my one there. And yeah, this would be, like I say, he's probably my two. But I think I agree with you on a character basis. He's always the one I have like the most fun with and stuff like that. And that's why before Magic kind of came around, like I there's just good vibes, and I just enjoy talking that character in scenarios and cutscenes and stuff like that. And I love just all the little blurbs they'll have about training and stuff like that. So yeah, great job with Blade. He's kind of, I feel like sometimes a de facto, not a main character, but like one of the bigger supporting characters too, with the main story. So
yeah, and we've talked pretty much about everyone at this point. I guess a couple more points on Magic. You mentioned that story element of going to Limbo with her. I thought that was a really cool moment. I like that she's kind of contextualized as the one who's taking you to and from the missions. That's fun to contextualize that within the world. And then her moveset is all about that too, and creating portals and very knockback focused. And I don't know about you, but anytime when you're doing a training, sometimes you get like some stat bonus you can give to a character, and there's one that increases area of effect. Like if you put someone in this training, it'll increase the area of effect. Anytime that comes up, I give it to her, and then she has that one ability that All Gather brings like everyone in AoE essentially. It sucks them all up and drops them right in the center of it. So I've upgraded that a few times now, where it's like a third of the map, so she can just pick up everyone and drop them right now to an explosive barrel or something like that, and then oh my god, it just works like magic. And then it of course it like insta kills any goons as well in the process. So her moveset is super fun. I like the style that she has too, but I think the story element to it, she's just a very funny character. I think she's making me laugh a lot. How she's just. She kind of just shit talks everyone, but like always in her creative and funny kind of Russian way. I didn't realize that that character is Colossus's sister. That's a fun connection. Yeah. Does that come up at all in New Mutants? Any Colossus reference in that movie? That's in the same universe, right?
Yeah, I've only seen it once. I imagine it.
I'm surprised you've never watched it again.
I want to. I liked it quite a bit too. I think I should, because Emily hasn't seen it, but it will come up in the animated series when we retro that. So you'll get to see some connections there and stuff like that. So you get to learn. I'm excited to obviously know Nico, but that has a lot of characters get like single episode origin stories. So it kind of gives you their whole, okay, this is their life. So you'll see some magic coming up next year. So
sounds good. I think we're getting down to it. We've got a few more things here. One is the Abbey is your home base. I think I really like bumping around here after every mission, going in the morning, do all my upgrades and all that stuff. Yeah. But yeah, what do you think about the greater, I guess, exploration of it and going to the different areas? You use your powers. No, you're not really solving puzzles. It's more just like, oh, there's this symbol, so I use this power here. But what do you think about this so far?
I like it, but there's like when I talked to you about, because you had another power, and like I said to you, what my experience was, open the game, played, win a little bit of that, and then I probably a day plus didn't do anything more. That's why I hit you like, hey, what have you done here? Because like maybe I should look into this. And then I did it, and I was getting upgrades and stuff like that. And I still got to get the other power, because I'm so annoyed that I get a moon seal from the first one, and I'm on the third power. I have the door. I go to inspect it, but it says I need a moon seal. It's like I don't know where else to get a moon seal. Have you done have you completed the statues with the eyes yet?
No, I have 3 of those.
Me too. Yeah. So yeah, I don't know where, because you said it made it sound like you could get to that door, but you just weren't like maybe strong. So
you went to that church, correct?
Yeah, the church where it's like explore the church, right?
Did you go out back behind the church where the hex on the wall thing is? Have you done that?
I didn't know how to get to the back.
Okay, I think you just have to use the reveal ability in that room in the church,
just the push.
No, the reveal one, because that's like the one you just unlock before going there.
That's
so if you like use it in there, I think it just like there's a hidden entrance or something like that.
That's fair, because I remember there's one where there's a church that Blade was hiding at where it was the push, but it didn't even have the symbol. It was just you just did and stuff like that.
Right.
So I don't. I like it that it adds more to the Abbey. I think it's terribly laid out for a map structure. I feel like you get lost and you go in circles constantly, and someone might say, "Oh, that's the fun of it," but to me, it just sometimes feels like I'm wasting time there. I wish there was a better route of being able to hold the toggles or the waypoints being better, stuff like that. Like it has that classic thing, like, oh, you reach the waypoint, it goes away, but it's like, no, I want this to stay so I can kind of double back. But if you just cross an inch over it, oh, it deactivates. So I don't think it's needed, because the other thing is I like the benefits I get in there, but so far there hasn't been anything that I haven't gone in missions or through Tony or Strange that I haven't got out there that I feel, oh, I really need, especially now that I'm doing like Heroic 2 and I'm getting more, and like now that I'm getting better, like even though it's funny, I got so cocky because I did Heroic 2 and my first mission I got 3-star. I'm like, oh, this is easy, and then I got a couple 1-stars in a row. I was like, oof, okay. But once I'm getting better at that, I'm getting more 3-stars, like, and I'm a person that's salvaging cards. I like the exploration, but I don't think it's needed. I don't think it takes away from the game, but I don't think it adds to it either. Maybe that'll change. I think maybe I will say one thing I'll put in the positive is it adds like lore, more like creepy supernatural lore. So I like that, but it's not a big thing.
Yeah, I like the visuals of the more creepy parts of the forest and the church and the graveyards, all that stuff. I think, it's without a doubt the weakest part of the game. I think where I like it is the pacing element of it, where I think if I ever just want to unwind a bit in the game and just kind of explore for a little bit, because that's almost like the most current, or I'll say next gen feeling about this game, is that like there's never any downtime. Where it's like when you're going into a quest, you'll get like, I don't know, a second or two of a load screen or something, but like that gameplay loop of the Abbey battle, go back to the Abbey upgrade battle, like you get stuck in it because of the lack of load screens there. Like I just feel like I'm blasting through things sometime and I just like lose myself. So then it's nice to just cruise around the Abbey grounds. I think I like the general, I'll say, world building of the witches, the covens, and all this stuff that's going on here. It's set in Salem, or near Salem, whatever it is. I think there's almost so much they're going for there, where you're finding journals after journal after journal, and there's paragraphs, paragraphs of text. I'm like, I've not read any of that, so I feel like there's a lot there that's probably going over my head in terms of depth. But I almost just feel like they wrote a lot of that stuff or had ideas and like didn't really know how to put it in the game, so they just kind of strung it in journals in the random woods. So it feels a bit disconnected from the main story of the game, but I like the concept of like the dynamic between Caretaker and Lilith, and Agatha's in here as like has a lot of lines of dialogue and all that stuff, and how that relates to Scarlet Witch, and then how they compare Nico, how she's like kind of going down that same path. So I like that they're connecting all these characters in different ways, but I think the execution of it could have used some refinement, and maybe it just needed to be a bit tighter, I guess, because even just walking around and running around in the environments, like it's just the jankiest thing in this game, right? Like obviously this is a tactics turn-based game where you're meant to walk around one building to talk to people. It wasn't meant for you running around environments where there's invisible walls everywhere and all this stuff.
Yeah, and that's where, like you allude to, and I said this at the beginning of the cast too, where if you gotta kill some time, it's like, well, I can just go farm some XP, get some stuff for the cauldron and everything. So that's where I think it is a nice add-on, and you get to make use of Charlie there, like you get to fight with your demon dog and stuff like that. So that's kind of fun, and then you got those different battles. So
I want to shout out those battles, because that's the part about that, I guess, storyline that I do really enjoy. I've only done, I guess, 2 of them through that now, but those are designed as like puzzles, right? Like they are, rather than regular encounters in the game, these are designed of like, not that there's one solution like most puzzles have, but particularly that second one, it took me many tries, and you're only allowed to try it once per day. You can't restart the encounter, and if you lose, you have to come back the next night and try it again. And it took me a few nights, and it felt so good when I finally got it, where you have the challenge of like you have to take out 16 enemies, but there's less than that on the map, and one of them kind of duplicates, so you have to kind of plan it right. And it took refinement of my deck, like specifically building it to do that. It took just multiple attempts and different strategizing and all this, and like that was super fun. And there was even another one of those where I think you just access it from the forge, where there was like a puzzle map. I don't know if you've done this yet, and I forget how it unlocked, but essentially it was just like a map that had 3 enemies on it, and there's no turn element of it, but you just have like 3 cards that do like different knockback and stuff. And you this is literally a puzzle where you have to do this exact set of movements and
No, I
attacks
haven't done
to
that.
like hit an enemy over here, use this one to kill him to get his card so that you can use another knockback. And like I hope there's a lot more of that, because that was a really, really cool puzzle with just this game's mechanics, and it shows how much depth there is to the movement and the knockback mechanics and the positioning of it, that they can make puzzles out of it is super cool. So I hope there's more of it in there, because I could only do one at the moment.
Okay.
I don't know if I have to like unlock them in specific
that?
ways. Once again, I don't know. I think it was a research. I think it was some research I did that unlocked.
Okay.
I'll try and find what the name of the puzzle was, because then maybe you can see where it is in the unlocks and do it too, because it was pretty interesting.
Well, that's where it's funny, and it's nowhere near to this extent of like an Elden Ring, but that's the funny talking about, like, I feel like you can't play this game and have your different experiences, because that one you talked about, like the enemies and the 3 turns, I did that one try. Why? Because when I talked to you, I was so much higher level when I went to it. Like it was like you probably did a lot earlier than me. It was like day 4 when I did it, and I was like, "Oh, you're supposed to be level this," and I was like 4 above it. So it was it was like it was a walk through the park. But that was my experience of like, oh, to me these are just little quick, easy, like, oh, get a power move on. But now the next one when I get to, I'm sure I'll be more caught up. But that's why I love that I didn't do any of that. I just went there, and then
What's your hunter level right now?
I think he's 12.
Okay, I think that was the recommended level for that, assuming it doesn't change based on your team's level
maybe
or
I'm
something like that.
maybe.
But yeah, it was, and I think I did it at 12, and that's where it finally felt right. And it still took me a couple of days worth of attempts. But
okay, maybe it's the first one, because there's one that I did that, because was it like a green area? And
yeah.
This was
that's what I mean. The second
power,
one that you wouldn't have got to yet is like recommended level 12, and that's a
okay.
good one. Yeah.
Okay, so yeah, we'll see how it might be ready. But same thing, I might just do what I did the first one and just wait till Hunter's a lot leveled up, because I don't need that power, right? So I might just wait till levels like a 15, 16 and go back and do it then with Charlie and stuff like that. And but yeah, it reminds me a lot of like a Harry Potter Chambers of Secrets.
I was, dude, playing through it, especially
yeah.
yesterday. The music is kind of like a bit Fable-esque. It's kind of fantasy. I'm like, man, if this is like what Hogwarts Legacy is going for, and assuming like exploring the grounds and stuff is going to be better, but like if it's even like going for the same idea as this with like better execution, probably less focus on the combat, more focus on exploration, like damn, I hope that's what we're getting, because that would be really cool. I guess kind of zooming back to the Abbey, there's a lot of also progression you can do there of upgrading your room with different stuff, which is more just cosmetic, but then you can upgrade your forge to do different stuff, that obviously different research. Upgrade the yard in various ways, upgrade I forget what it's called, the terminal that like Captain Marvel's usually chilling at. You can upgrade that to get different upgrades as well. So I like that those all come with like visual difference. Some new prop is in the scenery, but then they also have bonus mechanics to them, and like building different gear. Like have you kind of done that with your research? You're kind of focused on being able to build, like get stronger abilities and stuff like that. Is that kind of what you've gone for?
I've done like the trade a bunch of stuff for a common blueprint, like that. The second I've got Wolverine's
I don't think I've ever used a blueprint. Like I've not even explored with that.
The second I got Wolverine's regen power, I'm like, I'm getting this higher. So I spent a bunch of stuff and gear to get an epic blueprint, just so like I kind of jumped ahead, but I'm like, I'm gonna spend all this assets, everything on this, because like Wolverine's gonna be one of my guys.
Was
and
it
now
worth it?
Yeah, because I'm pretty sure it's like the regen, and then it's like draw 2 cards as well. So it's just like right away, it's like enemy as a card build. It's something like that, and I'm not even sure like when you get the other like a pass or something, what like a third addendum's gonna be. But no, I use the blueprints, because that's a good thing with me salvaging cards. I think that kind of fits to my play styles. I'm doing a lot of building, and I'm a lot of I want to get this power right away. Let's speed this up and see. I did that a lot with Strange. I buffed him out a lot, and all his cards are like the gold. Like when you have your deck, and it's like you can see the levels, and like the gold lines are like the top card. I just have one card that's not a gold. The rest are all gold. So he's ready to go. That's cool. Stuff. So yeah, no, I have lots of fun. I'm not customizing my room. I don't have time to customize my room. I got to do other stuff in this.
But
game,
you only have to spend like gloss on it. You don't have.
I just don't have time. I don't want time to look through it. I'll look through it someday. But I've done the hero thing. I've given.
I try and do it like every 3 days. I try and put some new prop in there. That way, it feels like I'm slowly upgrade, but I put a fireplace in there, a couch, so it's a little bit cozier now.
Oh yeah, mine's the exact same. It might say that way because I just I don't got time.
You have the biggest room. Everyone else is probably like, why don't you take my room, my little stupid little dorm? Give me the big room.
I'm saying all for cosmetics. You know, I got like my hunter character has like the black triangles because I did that to make it look like Passon's Batman as always with the black and stuff. I only played low with the Faithbreaker suit because that suit was ugly, so I got out of that one real fast.
I mean, I liked it for what it is, but I'm a couple of the color palettes you get for it are particularly cool. But I think like, man, there are so like, I don't know, maybe there's not tons of costumes necessarily, but there's so many recolors for the costumes, and the base costumes I do feel look so good that the recolors genuinely feel like a different thing. Like for the hunter, I think I have like 15 different color palettes, and each one of them like, ooh, I want to decorate with this different headpiece and stuff. Like, I'm really, really enjoying that part of it. And then they do the good thing, which is that when you unlock a suit and it gives you a passive, you can put that passive on any other suit, so you don't have to use. You know what I mean. So I mean, that part of it is like, that's once again the superhero fan like power fantasy element of it, and like the fan service element. Like it's all there. I love it.
Well, and that's what I've had the benefit of. That was if anyone listened to our review, me and Tiz Gotham Knights, that was like the strongest thing in that game was the suits, because it's like you got these suits and there's like 12 to 13 variations of this suit. Each variation has like 5 different colors. So it's like
cool.
And that's what I like about this. It's the same thing. Like, you feel like it does, like, it's a cheesy like build your own hero, but it does, because I guarantee you everyone will post a screenshot of their hunter, and you're probably rarely, like, other than once the basic, rarely gonna find people like the exact same, right? Like, my character I've made to look like a demon version of Passon's Batman, you know, like no one else.
I love
that
that's what he looks like, and then you're just full on the light side of the power of like the magic.
Yeah, I know, that's the way it is though. So, but that's what I love. Like, you can change all this stuff. Like you said, horns, headgear. You have some aviators if you want. Like, you can make some really mean.
You can get the Cyclops like mask.
Yeah,
you can do a lot. Like, you can get like Scarlet Witch's little like. It's not really
crown
a crown
or whatever,
but tiara sort of
that's
thing.
what they call it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Headdress.
I like that you can use that to kind of decorate your character to look like certain other characters. I kind of have like one of my go-to costumes for the hunter is just like kind of a baby blue, the color scheme, and like I kind of like the Valkyrie helmet. I have like a nice crown with like a blue emblem, and it's a lot of light blue and gold. Oh, it looks so clean.
That's nice. That's nice.
I'm spending a lot of money on on different costumes and all that stuff. I think we're kind of getting through it. Is there any other notes that we?
See if there's anything.
I guess, once again, the Abbey. I like that. There's like a little pool that people are lounging at. Everyone has like a different like swimwear too. So that's once again kind of a fan servicey sort of element of it. But I think it's when I first saw that, I'm like, can you just make these characters walk around in bikinis? But it's like, oh, that's only when they're chilling at the only when they're lounging in the pool.
Yeah,
so they don't go overboard with like that element of it.
I was wondering. Yeah, one thing we didn't mention is all the characters, when you meet them, they get like a fun little intro, like a blurb. Right. I really like that. Like when we got Cap, it was like the living legend, like the excellence of the human body. Like it was just like they're very tongue in cheek, and I think that fits because the game is serious, but I feel like they're trying to have comic book fun with it and everything.
Yeah, definitely.
So I like that. There was a quick moment. Hydra Bob was in this. He's like a Hydra agent that's very like comedic, and he has ties to Deadpool, but like it was a quick throwaway, but he was in there. And the only thing I'd say is like when I first started, the lots of cutscene then walk was grating on me, but once I got in the loop, I was like, okay, this works. But it was at the beginning, I felt like a lot of like stop and start because you're talking to every character, and at that point I didn't skip. I'm like you now, where most of the time I read it quickly and skip, because if I was to listen to all the dialogue in this game, that adds like I would not be where you were.
You'd be here forever.
Yeah, and then I think there's certain times too where, and I think like you talk about with the exploration, it's not the strong suit of the game. It's like there's cutscenes where there was a certain birthday party that happened, some bad stuff goes down, and no one reacts. It's just you and the two other characters, like Nico Magic as the main spoiler, that reacts. In the background, all the other characters are just talking, doing stuff. Like something really dramatic happens, and you thought, and then after the cutscene, all the characters are like, I can't believe the party ended. Like, but it's like, but I saw you in the background just doing nothing. So I think some of those cutscenes are a little like, we don't have time to animate this, which is fine. But it's like little stuff that keeps it away from. It's a little. It takes you out of it because you go, okay, this is a video game. This doesn't feel realistic in this moment, you know.
I hear you. Like even when you're walking through the Abbey, I like that everyone's doing something, like Blade's sitting there reading a book, or people are playing video games. But it's like, sometimes there'll be like 4 people sitting at the bar, and you walk by and like no one's saying anything. They're all just like chilling there until you interact with them, and then they say some goofy little line. So it would have been cool if there was more kind of mingling between them. I understand why that's not a thing, but even if they tried to fake it a bit more, you're right, by just having little conversations where it's like, oh, this character is here interacting with someone else. They're not always just there to be an NPC that you interact with.
And
right? Like
me,
sometimes that layer of it is a bit too obvious.
And for me, it was just like this birthday party thing. Like, if it's like there's some dialogue bubbles, but like most of it was like a cutscene. So it's like, why didn't you?
Yeah.
And like the part where the stuff goes down, they go back to the dialogue bubbles and no one's there. So it's like, but it's fine. At the end of the day, it's like these are my small issues with the games. Like even stuff like the light and dark that I had issues with earlier. There's stuff that I wouldn't give this game a complete perfect score, but it's like they're not so much that this is gonna stop me from. It's like no. After I'm done with this review, I'm probably gonna go play some more rounds. I'm gonna be playing. Like I kind of shuddered when you said Hogwarts Legacy because I'm like, damn, that's in February. Because I was wanting to I was like, well, Jedi Survivor's in March, so I guess I could do that. But now it's Hogwarts, which I'm very excited for. I'm like, but like winter break, like this is a game that I really, really wish was on the Switch because I like. And I know it probably couldn't run the same way, but this is a game I would love to be able to take and go and like if I'm on my lunch at work, I would love to okay, I'm gonna get a couple
That'd
card
be deadly,
decks in.
man.
Man. I know, but this is the first game I've always, and we had the Marvel Ultimate Alliance, but I had to have it on the Switch, right? This is the first game that I was like, man, I would die to get this on the Switch, even though I know it wouldn't be graphically really would look like Marvel Ultimate Alliance 1 and stuff maybe, but I would love just at any point be like, I'm gonna go do a round and do an Abbey run and it's a great game. I've had so much fun in the way that I'll save my blurb for a game of the year, but it's I'm very happy this way I'm ending, same like you, ending my year with this game. This game is going to be taking me till February, and if Legacy doesn't grab me, I'll be back to this because it's I'm excited to see like once you beat it, what you do after. Is it just always missions and stuff like that? So I'm in love with this game.
Yeah, I'm very curious for what's going to happen at that point too, because I like we said, I feel like I'm pretty early on in a way, just in terms of saying part 1. I'm feeling like, oh my god, that took 20 hours to like finish part 1. That's insane. So I'm curious to see that too. And I mean, I want to take my time with it because I like doing bonus missions if I need to get intel or need to get cash and stuff like that. And also I just want to keep getting upgrades and stuff in between missions, so I want to take my time to do it. But at the same time, I want to make sure I've played enough of this that I know where this is going to be on my top 10 list, because I can already say this is already cracked into my top 10 just with like where it's at so far. So unless it nosedives, like, I mean, once again, I compared to Cult of Lamb, that was like, man, this game's amazing, but then it really tanked because of how it like dealt with some of those systems in the end. So hopefully this doesn't do that. But right now it's already kind of nice and slotted in that top 10. So I can't wait to see where it falls when all is said and done. But to find out, you got to check out those Game of the Year episodes. Travis, yours will be somewhere in the levels or the characters episode. One of the two. I don't know. You and Kirkland, we'll see who records when. But for everyone listening, you can tune in both those episodes at least if you want to hear where Travis's Game of the Year is, because you were pretty high on Elden Ring when we reviewed that too. So I am very, very personally curious to hear which one takes the cake, assuming it's one of those two.
I'll tell you what, though, the next time I'm on Adam Mana, you better look out, because if someone doesn't put in Suns is coming in somewhere, you know.
And Elden Ring's on that list too, so we'll have to compare the two against each other.
I'm throwing it down, throwing the gauntlet down.
Sounds good. Well, we'll have to make that happen then. Thank you so much for joining me. Thank you, everyone, so much for listening. Make sure, once again, to tune in later this week for the introduction to the Game of the Year episode, as well as the Game Awards coverage, and then all the other good Game of the Year stuff we got this month for you. And like I said, maybe more Midnight Suns content coming down the road, because there's probably a lot more in here for me and Travis to talk about at some point. Yeah. But that will be all for today. And we'll see you in just a few days. Thank you for listening. Bye-bye.